What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is a story where Izuku was a delinquent street racer and married Momo. Well, it seemed like your typical Friday night, but not a single soul could have fathomed the outcome. The brapping sound of a 4-rotary engine could be heard in the distance, accompanied with sirens. Dashing at full speed down the Japanese highway, there he was, running from the cops yet again. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations and support the amazing author Smock34521 for writing this story. Now, let's get into the story. Looking into the skies, the stars shine brighter than usual. With the Tokyo skyline in the distance, it was a beautiful sight. Even though he sat there on the top of a hill outside of Tokyo, his peace was not long lasting. A ringing brought him out of his gaze. Looking at his ringing phone, he sighed to himself. It was his mother calling him for the 5th time tonight. Shaking his head and giving in to temptation, he answered the call. "Yes, mother, what is the urgency that you are calling me the 5th time in only 10 minutes? He asked, putting her on loud so he doesn't have to hold the phone against his ear. "Where in the world are you? Your car is gone and I have no sign of life from you. The only thing you left was a letter with the writing on it, 'I'll be back later tonight.'" His mother shouted at him. "I told you, didn't I? I'm going on a midnight run." He trailed off, admiring and taking in the mountain breeze. "What did we talk about, honey?" His mother sounded saddened. I know. I just wanted to clear my head," he stated and pulled out a pack of cigarettes. Putting one in his mouth and lighting it. His mother, clearly hearing what he just did, sighed out and gave in. "Izuku. I know it's hard, but you promised me you'd stop smoking." "I know, mother. But it's the only thing that keeps me calm at the moment," he stated and took another drag from his cigarette. Holding in the smoke and letting it burn for a few seconds, he exhaled the smoke as his lungs started to ache. "Be safe, Izuku, and please don't get caught. I love you," his mother stated and hung up. Finishing his cigarette and closing his eyes, he let the burn of the smoke in his throat do its work. "I love you too, mother," he stated as he exhaled the smoke. Grabbing his keys out of his pocket, he walked up to his car. Before he unlocked it, he stood in front of the beauty he got to his 16th birthday. It was a 2004 Subaru Impreza GT. It had Airflux air suspension, 18 Japan racing rims fitted with Toyota's proxies, and 98% tinted windows. The outer chassis was fitted with a variety of carbon fiber parts. The front fenders, the hood, the rear trunk hatch and as well as the wing was carbon fiber. He admired the car he built himself over the last few months. His hand glided over the carbon fiber hood as he walked up to the driver's seat. Unlocking the door and seating himself into the racing seat, he buckled up his 2-point racing harness and started the car. The flat 4-cylinder boxer engine was music to his ears. He put his car in neutral and started revving the engine multiple times until he heard a satisfactory turbo flutter. The interior of the car was also modified, fitted with 2 Steyr racing bucket seats and a full body roll cage. On the driver's side of the car were 2 gauges fitted onto the A-frame of the car, a vacuum gauge and a boost gauge. As well as 3 additional on the center console of the car, a oil temperature and pressure gauge, as well as a second boost gauge. An additional RPM gauge was fitted on the steering column. Shifting into reverse, he pulled out of his parking space. "Well, time to let out the monster," he stated and put on his black face mask. Flicking a switch on the center console, his number plates changed into custom plates that read, "Midnight Runner" on the front and "Catch Me" at the rear. He flicked 2 additional switches, turning on the underbody neon blue light as well as the neon blue interior light. Pulling out of the parking lot, he started driving down the mountain and connected his phone with a Bluetooth stereo system. He selected his favorite song and started cruising down the road. After a while of driving the mountain pass, he started to pick up the pace as he reached a few hairpins. Rev shifting into a lower gear, the all-wheel drive car entered the turn doing a 4-wheel drift. "Let's hope my guardian angel can keep up with me," he shouted to himself as he stepped onto the gas pedal. As he was driving down the mountain, drifting through all the corners, more and more of his emotions got the better of him. "I know the pain that you hide behind the smile on your face," the music blasted through the speakers. "Son of a bitch. It just had to be that memory," he thought to himself. "I can wait for you at the bottom. I can stay away if you want me to. I could wait for years if I got it. Heaven knows I ain't getting over you." Coming out of the mountains, he drifted onto the highway, cutting straight into the left lane, brake checking the car that he just cut off and flooring it. "We'll try again. When we're not so different. We will make amends. Till then I'll just pretend. Dumb bitch," he shouted at the top of his lungs and continued flooring the gas pedal. The memories flooding in as a lonesome tear glided down his face. "Way down on me. Stay till morning. Way down, would you say I'm worthy?" He took a glimpse at his speedometer, reading 180 kilometers per hour and climbing, reaching 190 kilometers per hour. Way down on me. Stay till morning. Way down, would you say I'm worthy? Running through a speed cam with almost reaching 210 kilometers per hour, he could hear the twin turbos of his engine work on full power. He looked into the rear view mirror and spotted red and blue lights in the far distance. But he ignored it, since he knew that the Japanese police cars were chipped to not go over 170 kilometers per hour. He continued to swerve through traffic and surpass where he could. It didn't matter if it was squeezing his car through the small spaces he found between other road occupants, or if he had to overtake using the emergency lane. The only thing that mattered to him was escaping his demons. He knew it would be probably better if he saw a therapist, but he wasn't ready to spend money for someone to tell him that he would get over it eventually. Seeing that his exit was about to come up, he slowly stepped on the brakes and readied himself to drive home. Flicking the 3 levers again, turning off the lights and switching back to his street-legal number plates. Well, it looks like Satan still has a restraining order on my ass, he said to himself as he made his way home. He looked at the time, reading 1:42 a.m. Well, another 3-hour drive until I'm home, he thought to himself. Driving down the road, taking the next exit to Mustafa. As he entered a tunnel, more and more details of the car could be shown as the light shined on it. His blue Subaru Impreza showed a varieties of dents and repairs. Especially his front bumper, where it was cracked, it was fixed by using zip ties in a crisscross pattern. One of his front headlights had a big hole in it that was covered up with a carbon ring on the edges. Though it looks like his headlight was broken, it was done on purpose to activate more airflow into his turbos. One of the back windows had a huge crack in it, but due to the window tint it didn't shatter. It's the only thing what is holding it together. There were multiple pops heard in the tunnel due to his exhaust spitting flames again. His cruise through the tunnel didn't last long. In the distance a faint sound of police sirens could be heard, as well as for a 4-rotary engine. He knew that engine sound and could depict it in an instant. Slowing down and waiting for the car behind him to catch up, he pushed the cover upwards so he could flick the switch as soon as they are in range. Slowing down and flicking the switch to change to his custom license plates, he readied himself to cut off the cops that were chasing down the rotary vehicle that was slowly showing up in his rear view mirror. Smirking to himself, he shifted into another gear and picked up the pace again. Knowing the driver of the car behind him will probably recognize him, he turned on his intercom in his car. Yo. What's up, Clipper? He spoke out. It took a few moments until he received an answer, but the driver of the car that was gradually catching up on him sounded relieved. Shadow. Thank God I ran into you. Do you mind lending me a hand? The now known Clipper stated. No problem, the usual. Izuku questioned. Yeah, that would be sweet, man. Now driving next to each other, both gradually picking up the speed of the other. The car in particular was a 1995 Mazda RX-7 FD3s, fitted with a Rocket Bunny body kit and a Formula D trunk back wing. It was painted in a two-face color, the driver's side being painted black and the passenger side being painted in dark purple with a honeycomb pattern. Running on 18 3-piece rims, fitted with Michelin Pilot 4 tires and K&W coilovers, the car was so low you would think it would scrape the asphalt. Both drivers of the Mazda RX-7 and the Subaru Impreza WRX-Ti pull over immediately. The two drivers looked at each other and nodded. Clipper picking up the pace and escaping, while Izuku started two-stepping and shooting flames to pull the attention of the cops on him. He was well known by them, since it wasn't his first time escaping their grasp, but something told him that he won't get out of this today. Pushing those thoughts aside, he picked up a pole that was laying next to the center console on the passenger side. Screwing it into a hole in the center console, he loosened the safety pin and pulled on the now extended lever. Doing so he started drifting all over the 4-lane highway and obstructing the sight of the police in a thick cloud-white smoke. I'm glad I built in a fly-off into this baby, he mumbled to himself. Drifting from left to right, it felt like he was having the time of his life. After a few moments he stopped and floored the gas pedal to escape the cops. The only thing that he didn't calculate into his escape was the black car that emerged out of the white smoke. His eyes widened as he recognized the car. From the outside it looked like a normal sedan, but to the trained eye you could instantly recognize that it was heavily modified. How the fuck? Driving down the exit and almost reaching Mustafa City, Izuku knew about the car behind him. It was a sleeper. Not any sleeper though, no, it was a tuned Toyota Chaser, fully blacked out. This is the Toyota Chaser that everyone was talking about lately. He was in a pinch. For the first time being a midnight runner he was genuinely distressed. Hey. If anyone can hear me, I have a 12 to 58 on my 6. Some help would be appreciated. He shouted into his radio as he entered the city. Not knowing what to do, Izuku tried shaking him while taking unexpected turns through the city. But to no evaluation, the car behind him didn't let loose. He was frantically driving like a headless chicken through the city. Shadow. Where the hell are you? Came over the intercom after another 5 minutes. Silver, is that you? Izuku spoke out. You bet your ass it's me, now where the hell are you? I'm trying to keep up with you, but I can't get a hold of you. Silver stated. She was a girl, with long blue hair that faded into a light purple hue. She stood at a height of 1.70 meters and had a playful personality. I'm heading towards HQ, but I need to get this prick off of me. My tires won't last any longer, I can already smell the metal housing if the tire's burning up anymore and my car is going up in flames. Izuku stated. Yeah, I can tell by the tire marks in the street, but… holy fuck. Silver slammed the brakes and was surprised when Izuku cut her off, overtook her and drifted into the crossroad, taking a right turn. The two of them making eye contact as he did so. Shaking her head and getting herself together, she flirted and chased right after him. Normally it would be unusual for the car she is owning to be driven in Japan. It was an blacked out Audi S5, fitted with a trunk back wing, 96% window tint, 21 ankle rims fitted with Michelin Cross Climate tires. She chased after the two cars and started observing the Toyota Chaser, thinking how she could bring to stop tailing Izuku. Hey, Shadow. What about your nose? She questioned him. Don't even try. If I push it, there would be a chance I'd drive into the next lamppost, or I'd blow a tire. We're in the middle of Mustafa City. He pointed out. Suddenly there was a loud pang. Silver's eyes widened at what she was just witnessing. Izuku's tire blew up. He spun out of control and headed right into the next crossroad. He was trying to fight the car for control, but to no evaluation. He crashed with his rear bumper right into the stoplight pole, coming to an immediate stop. The Toyota Chaser slid to a halt right next to him. The only thing that he got was a glimpse of two people exiting the car before he fell unconscious. Silver skidded to a stop right in front of the men, exited her car and ran right up to Izuku. Running up to Izuku, she ripped open the driver's side door. But due to one of the men that were following Izuku, she was pulled back. Hey. Let me go, you motherfucker. She shouted. She was trying to reach her friend, but one of the two men grabbed her and won't let her go. She was trying to escape him, but his grip was too strong for her. Silver, stop resisting. We are not here to arrest you or Shadow. The man said. He sounded quite sleep-deprived. Turning her head, she looked up to the 31-year-old male, a slender and tall, pale-skinned man with messy, shoulder-length black hair that partially hangs in front of his face and half-open black eyes. He is usually recognized for his worn-out appearance, often looking fatigued. His facial hair is almost always in a stubbly, unkempt state and his eyes tired and flat. He sports a baggy black outfit that consists of a long-sleeved shirt and matching pants that are tucked into his boots. He also wears a utility belt and his signature wrap scarf at all times. Silver's eyes widened as she recognized the man that was holding her, was no other than the Eraser Hero. Eraserhead. What is an underground hero doing, messing with a bunch of street racers? She questioned him. We will explain that later, as soon as we get your friend out of his car. Silver turned her attention back to her friend. She was shocked at the state he was in. Blood dripping down his face and being unconscious made her worry a lot about him. He was being pulled out of his car gently by the man that was with Aizawa. You know. He's going to go on a rampage, right? Silver pointed out. The sleep-deprived Teach on the other hand just nodded and pulled out his phone, making a call. Hey, it's me. We need a tow truck. I'll send you my location. Letting go of Silver, Aizawa walked up to his partner and checked up on the kid he was pulling. He looked back at the car and then back to Silver, who was standing beside him. He could see that she was worried about him. Namasa placed the boy into the back seat of her car. Silver understood what the pro-hero meant and opens her passenger seat door. But it sounded good on paper, the only problem there was that she didn't drive a sedan, she'd drive a coupe. Nevertheless, they placed Shadow on the passenger seat and fitted him with Silver's 5-point racing harness. You two go on ahead and drive to the meeting point, I'll stay back and wait for the tow truck. Aizawa pointed out. Namasa and Silver did as they were told. With that said, Silver followed the black Toyota Chaser. Silver continued to observe the car in front of her. A normal person wouldn't spot it, but a tuner or street racer on the other hand would immediately. The 1998 Toyota Chaser was fitted with 18 BBS rims, painted in black. To add to that, it had Brembo brakes, not painted in their usual red, no, they were painted black to hinder recognizing. The car was also fitted with a body kit. Even though it was only the front and rear bumper, as well as the side skirts, recognizing it was hard, especially in the dark. And to add to insult, when listening closely, there wasn't a 1JZ engine, no, there was a bi-turbo V8 engine built into the car. She followed them for a while until she recognized where they are headed to. Oh fuck me. Were the words she uttered. The place where they were headed to was no other than UA High School. UA High School, the #1 hero school in Japan. And the school that Izuku attended, the school he stopped visiting 2 weeks until now. Silver slowly put the pieces together and realized into what mess she got pulled into. Parking on the teacher's parking lot, she could recognize that recovery girl was waiting for them, as well as Principal Nezu and pro heroine Midnight. Exiting her car and looking at Namasa, she stared at him with a questionable look. "Ah, Detective Tsukauchi. Thank you for bringing him here, although it looked like you brought a friend." Nezu clapped his paws together. "Yes, Principal, there was a small accident," the detective stated. Drawing their look at Silver, they were curious what she was doing here. But before they could question her, Aizawa pulled up with power loader in their tow truck. Silver looked at her phone, the time reading 5:46 a.m. "His mother is going to kill him," Silver stated. Looking over to her car, the medical bots had Izuku lay on a stretch and bringing him to recovery girl. "Aizawa, glad you could make it," Nezu stated happily. Yeah, let's get to the point." The sleep-deprived hero started and looked over at the blue-haired girl. "It's best if you tag along, Silver." Silver did as she was told and followed them into the school. Sitting in the principal office, the silence was quite unsettling. Looking around, the two pro heroes and the principal waited patiently for their last guest to arrive. Aizawa was leaned against a wall by the door, Midnight was sitting on the principal's desk, and Nezu was stirring his tea. She looked over to Izuku who was sitting beside her, not looking all too well. "I'm guessing we are waiting for my mother?" the green-haired teen questioned, only to receive a nod from the white chimera. "Oh fuck me," he said out loud, catching his homeroom teacher, as well as his modern art teacher off guard. They never heard him swear before, so this was new. Silver sighed out, since she couldn't have this anymore. "Okay, why in the world are we even here?" she questioned. "Well, that's quite easy," Nezu excitingly claimed. "Mr. Midoriya, or for you better known as Shadow, will be taken out of the hero course. He is suspected to be a traitor and shall be punished as such." "Wait, what the hell?" Izuku stood up and slammed his hands into the desk. "How the fuck did you come to that conclusion?" "Problem child, calm down." Aizawa came up from behind and placed his hand onto his shoulder. "Fuck no." He slapped the hand of his homeroom teacher away. "Where in God's name is your proof?" At that moment there was a knock on the door and Inko Midoriya entered the room. Running up to her son and checking him if he is hurt. Ms. Midoriya." "Perfect timing, we were just talking about your son," the chimera chirped. He explained the accusations to Izuku's mothers and the consequences that we're waiting for him. "Okay, you piece of shit. I want to see your proof," Izuku claimed. Nezu pulled up a video with the date on it, saying 04.05.2135256 p.m. The video shows that Izuku gave some villains information about UA Academy. Now that's a lot of bullshit. Silver stood up and didn't let the situation sit on top of her friend. "Shadow has an alias for that day, and I can prove it." "Oh, if you can, then I would gladly see that proof." Nezu smiled at the girl. Silver pulled out the last text conversation she had with Shadow on that day. Showing it to the principal and showing the pictures they took that day. "Shadow, Clipper, 13 and me were on Tauge Mountain drifting that afternoon. That can't be Shadow on that video you showed us. At that time he was standing next to me as we tried pulling my car out of the mountain barrier," the blue-haired girl explained to them. "Who gave you that video?" Izuku looked at Nezu, he was pissed. "Oh, Mr. Todoroki gave me that video. Son of a bitch." The mop of green hair shouted, activating his quirk and punching into the table, breaking it. Everyone was shocked seeing him act like this, especially Silver. She never saw him this angry before. "Shadow, calm down," she tried de-escalating the situation. Izuku stood up and walked towards the door. "Take me out of the hero course," he stated. "Problem child, what do you mean?" Aizawa was shocked hearing him say this. He knew that his #1 problem child was obsessed with heroes and had the biggest motivation to become a hero, but hearing this, it didn't sound like it would be true. "If Todoroki wants me gone, that he can have it that way." Turning around and facing his teachers, "I quit." He slammed the door shut and made his way home. Silver and his mother ran right after him. Aizawa and Midnight stood there stunned. They could have never have fathomed this outcome. Turning to the rat, the sleep-deprived hero grabbed him by the collar. "Fix this mess or I'm taking it into my own hands." Letting his boss go and chasing after his, now former student. Aizawa ran after them, heading to the support course garage, knowing that Izuku wants to take his car with him. Entering the garage, there they stood, the Midoriyas and Silver. Both Silver and Midoriya's mother tried changing his mind. "Midoriya, wait up," he shouted after them. Silver and Ms. Midoriya turned his direction, but Izuku didn't. The only thing he did was throwing a tension belt after him. Aizawa senses, with all due respect, if they want to start treating me like a piece of shit, so be it. But I'm not letting myself be called a villain for something I didn't do. The mop of green shouted at him. Lowering the loading bed from the truck, he took everything he left in the car. First that good-for-nothing bitch, and then that daddy issues piece of crap. Fuck no. I'm done being a hero. If there is something you might need from me, just hope you can find me on one of the Japanese mountain passes. With that said, Izuku got in his car and drove off. Silver and Inko stood there and sighed out. Get in, Ms. Midoriya. I'll give you a ride home. Silver smiled and left shortly after. Aizawa stood there, not believing what happened. He just lost one of his best students. He felt a fury of emotions, sadness, frustration, but most importantly anger. He stood there, not knowing what to do. Looking at the door of his classroom, he was hesitant to enter. Taking a deep breath and sighing out, he opens the door and entered the classroom. Looking at his students, he felt quite disgusting at the sight of two particular students. The first one being Ichako Uraraka, and the second one being the son of the second-ranked hero in Japan, Shoto Todoroki. His anger was slowly building up, but he tried to control his emotions. Okay class, listen up. He shouted to get the attention of his students. As you guys can probably see, Midoriya is no longer with us. He quit the hero course to pursue his passion. He explained to them. A couple of hands shot up in the air, the first one being of course Iida. Sensei. If I may ask, what happened to Midoriya-kun? The blue-haired student questioned. Well Iida, how about turning to Todoroki for that question, since he is one of the reasons Midoriya left? The sleep-deprived teacher stated. The bi-colored haired boy knew instantly where this is going. Todoroki-kun, would you be so kind and elaborate? Iida questioned him. Well you see, the thing is. He had connections to the law, and I saw him. Todoroki started, only to be interrupted by his teacher as he wrapped his capturing gear around him and pulled him to the front of the class and slamming his head against the blackboard. I swear to God, I'm going to expel you if you continue your lie. Aizawa shouted at him. The whole class was silent, not uttering a word. On the other hand with Izuku, he was on his way into his garage where he would meet up with his crew. He sighed out to himself, knowing that there is no turning back now. He outed his opinion and told himself not to go back on his words. Time for a restart. He stated. Somewhat deep down inside him though was glad he quit. It opened a whole new opportunity for him. He talked with his mother and came to agreement that he would start a new career as a car mechanic. He always had a love for cars, so it brought him joy that he could persuade his other passion. Driving into the hangar he and his crew owned, there were a bunch of cars sitting there. His friends working on their representative car. Clipper on his Mazda RX-7, Silver on her Audi S5, 13 on his Nissan 370Z Heritage, and a bunch of other guys on their car. They all looked over to him as he drove into his lifting platform. Damn Shadow. You really wrecked her, didn't you? A boy walked up to him. Yo, Reaper. Yeah, I blew a tire while I was running from the cops and crashed into a stoplight post. Izuku explained to him. Reaper was one of the oldest in his crew. He was a 26-year-old driving a blacked-out Nissan GTR 32. He was wearing a leather jacket over his black t-shirt. Additionally to that he wore ripped jeans and high Vans. He had long curly shoulder-length hair. Izuku jacked up his car while more of his crew went up to him to see if he was alright. He explained to them his current situation and what he was planning on doing next. Well, if they kicked you out, why don't we start a racing team then? I mean, we did talk about it a few times now. Zero chirped into the conversation. Zero was an 18-year-old guy who had a boxer's haircut. Rocking a white t-shirt with black cargo pants and Nike sneakers. He owns a red Nissan 350Z. You know what, that might be a good idea. Izuku agreed upon. But first, I need to fix up this girl right here. He stated and pointed to his Subaru. Well, why not rebuild it from scratch? All heads turned to the lifting platform next to them. They all looked at the pink-haired girl working on her car, minding her own business. Looking up from underneath the car, she gave them all a questionable look. What? I mean, the whole rear is demolished. Do you guys know how long it would take to straighten that out? She pointed out and went back under her car. It was a black and gold wrapped Liberty Works Nissan GTR 35 Nismo, and the person in particular was Candy. She was a pink-haired, 17-year-old girl. She was the mechanic of the crew. And the GTR she owned was one of a kind. From afar it looked like a normal black GTR with golden accents, but if you got closer and looked closely, it was a full carbon chassis car. I mean, she does have a point, plus you could change to that body kit you wanted. Clipper pointed out. You know what? That's not such a bad idea. The mop of green hair smiled and got straight to work. It was late at night. Izuku and his crew were at their garage working on their cars. In total they were a crew of 10 racers. Each one specializes in a different category in the underground racing scene. There were Silver and Jess, both being a wheelman, doing jobs as an escape driver or delivering goods from one place to another. Clipper, Reaper, Zero and Izuku are racers, challenging everything and everyone that they deem worthy racing. 13, Candy, Smoke, Badger and 7 are all downhill specialists, racing through the steep Japanese mountain passes. Although Candy does specialize in downhill races, she prefers to stay in the garage, working on her and her crew's cars. But in one thing they all agree on, is their passion for drifting. It's been now almost over a month since Izuku quit being a hero, and he was happy to say the least. His mother supported his choice and was happy to see her son smile again. But that wasn't the only thing. Since Izuku introduced his mother to his crew, she was the mother for all of them, feeding and taking care of all 10 of them. Even though Reaper didn't agree upon this, deep down everyone knew he was happy that someone cared about his well-being. "Izuku, I brought food," a voice shouted through the hangar. Everyone looked to the entrance and sure enough it was Ms. Midoriya. "I brought everything that you guys asked for, plus here this is for you, honey." Inko smiled. "Thanks mom." The mop of green hair smiled at her, but wondered what the small box is she gave to him. "Hey, Shadow. You do know what that is, your hold right?" Jess questioned him. "Ms. Midoriya, how did you get your hands on that thing?" "Oh Jess, honey, I told you to call me Inko or mom, didn't I?" Jess blushed a bit remembering that she did in fact say that. Well then. "Mom. Where did you get that from?" The blonde questioned her again. "That is actually a birthday present from Izuku's father," Inko happily explained. "Huh. But my birthday was 3 months ago. There is a reason why it came just now. Why don't you open it?" she happily said to him. Upon opening the little box, there was a car key inside. A BMW key to be accurate. A BMW? He looked questionable at his mother. She only nodded and pointed outside. Walking outside of their garage, not only Izuku, but his whole crew were stunned. Izuku's father gave him a BMW M3 to his 16th birthday. It was a limited edition 2006 BMW M3 E46 GT-RLA. Fitted with a 4.0L V8 making 345 horsepower and 390 New Mexico. But that wasn't the only thing that was on the trailer. In front of the BMW there were 2 additional cars, but covered up. Looking back down at the small box he was holding, there were 2 additional keys. But this time he recognized it instantly and was stunned. He never imagined owning these cars in particular. "Motherfucker, what kind of job does your dad have?" There were less than 10 of those cars made, and only because they wanted to take part at the 24H race of Le Mans, Jess grabbed Izuku by the collar and interrogated him. Izuku's sweat dropped upon Jess's reaction. But to be completely honest, he too did not know. "Jess, honey, Izuku's father works in the automotive industry. He is an engineer for BMW." Inko stated, dropping the bomb onto them like it was nothing. "He helped develop this car," she said and pointed to the BMW. "Jess, in all honesty, I don't know much about Euro cars, I mostly focus on JDM cars." The mop of green stated, only earning him a few shaking heads. "What? I never found a big interest in them, plus they're a hassle to work on, and the parts are too expensive. Anyway, honey, the second car underneath the cover is a special one from you grandparents." Mama Midoriya smiled happily. "Well. According to the keys in the box, I know what cars they are." The greenet smiles and climbed onto the trailer, uncovering the first car. "Now this is a car I can work with." Everyone was stunned seeing the car. It was a custom painted car in purple with carbon and gold accents. The car was a 2010 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. Popping the hood, everyone was surprised seeing the engine that was built into the car. "What in the?" Clipper and 13 joined Izuku on the trailer and were surprised to say the least. "Well. Never knew you could fit a twin-turbo V8 into this car," Clipper said. "What now?" Candy shouted and climbed onto the trailer, looking at the engine bay herself. "How in Jesus fuck did they fit a 4.0L V8 engine into this thing, not to mention a twin-turbocharged at that?" Not believing her sight, she looked closer and lost it completely. "Now someone explain to me how you can get not one, but 2 Garrett GTX 5544R Gen 2 turbos into that small engine bay." Everyone chuckled at Candy's antics. While she continued to go on about a rant, Izuku and Clipper uncovered the next car. Wow. Both teens were mesmerized to say the least. I mean, this could go either extremely good or horrifyingly bad. Both chuckled at one another. The car they uncovered was a 2015 Ford Mustang GT-R TR edition. Popping the hood yet again, they were taking back on the size of the engine. It was a 6.5 liters V12 single-turbo engine. The interior was also fitted with a roll cage and 2x14 kilograms nose tanks. Izuku looked at his mother, wondering why he got a muscle car. "Well sweetheart, this is from me and your father. We both thought you could use a new car since you and your crew want to participate in Formula D." She smiled at him. Going up to his mother and hugging her, he showed her the gratitude he had for her. Driving the cars off of the trailer and parking then inside the garage, they all realized that it was slowly getting cramped. Since everyone had at least 1 or 2 cars and a third car on their local drift circuit, they agreed on looking for a bigger garage. They sat there all together eating and chatting in front of an old oil barrel that Candy welded into a fireplace. They had a good time. After some time Izuku looked at the clock, it read 2:37 a.m. He looked at his friends and all of them instantly knew what was up. Izuku wanted to test out his new drift car. They got ready and got their stuff together to go for a little drift session on one of Mustafa's mountain passes. Driving down the garage ramp, it looked like a scene from a movie. They drive in the direction of the mountain, stopping on a crossroad light. Even though it was almost 3 in the morning, there were still a lot of people on the streets of Mustafa. The crew got a lot of stares as they stood at the stoplight, sat in formation, fooling around and revving their engines. It was unusual for her to be out this late, but she wanted to get some time for herself, or what you could say if there weren't her bodyguards around her 24/7. Walking through the morning streets of Mustafa, Momo Yayoi Rozu, the daughter of the Yayoi Rozu Corporation, was feeling somewhat troubled. It's been a month now since one of her classmates dropped out of the hero course of UA High School. She felt like, since she is class president, somewhat responsible for his sudden disappearance. Sighing to herself, she looked up into the sky and took in the star-covered night. Ever since her and her classmates found out what happened between Uraraka, Todoroki and Midoriya, she couldn't get sleep. The thought of Midoriya dropping out of the hero course was so unusual, since he was a nerd if it came to being a hero. What surprised her more was Bakugo, the Katsuki Bakugo, was devastated hearing that his childhood friend stopped wanting to be a hero. It took 4 teachers to stop him from going on a rampage, and 5 more to hinder him from killing Shoto Todoroki. The Ravenant knew that he was aggressive, but would have never fathomed that he would escalate this much. She walked through the streets and was taken by the sudden sounds of multiple engines revving in the streets of Mustafa at 3 in the morning. Watching the cars that were standing at the crossroad, she was amazed how they looked. She could recognize some of them, since her older brother is interested in cars. Huh? What is a Ford Mustang doing here? She mumbled to herself. Seeing the muscle car, she was somewhat confused, since Mustangs are mostly being sold in the US or Europe. Observing the car closely, she was taken back by the driver. Sitting in his Mustang and revving it a few times, not only to show off, but to hear that V12 engine pure. Looking around the interior of his car, it was fitted with a Momo steering wheel, fly-off, a conventional level shifter and a full-body roll cage. Not only that, but there was a JBL sound system in the car, as well as multiple gauges and levers. Flicking all 3 levers simultaneously, the interior, underbody glow and engine bay lights turned on in a dark green light. Not bad. He grinned to himself. The car itself was painted in a gray and had dark green racing stripes, decorating it. Seeing the light turn green, Izuku smashed the gas pedal, doing a burnout start. Heading straight through the city with his crew, there were multiple others car enthusiasts they came up upon. They were gushing over them and the cars they were driving. Izuku, driving the Mustang GT with Silver in the passenger seat, Clipper in his Rocket Bunny RX-7, 13 in his 370Z Heritage, Reaper in his R32, Zero in his 350Z Z33, Candy in her Liberty Works GTR, Jess in her Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution X, Badger in his R34, and 7 in his Veilside RX-7. Entering the mountain pass, Silver started to tighten down her racing harness, knowing Izuku, he would instantly go full out. She looked into the side mirror and saw that the others were also starting to hit it off from the start, doing multiple clutch kick initiations to get those tires warmed up. Running up the mountain and entering the first turn, Izuku and Clipper tandemed through it, almost hitting each other's side skirts. Son of a. Shadow, slow the fuck down. Silver shouted at the top of her lungs. She gripped the bucket seat with all her might so she wouldn't be thrown around that much. She looked at the green-haired teen and then back out of the passenger window, seeing Clipper almost tapping them again. In the far distance were Badger, Jess and 13 drifting behind them. What's wrong, Silver? I thought you like it rough. He grinned at her sly, earning him a blushing, 17-year-old blueberry. I hate you so much, Izuku. She shouted at him. Continuing drifting up the mountain, there were a lot of other drivers they came across. They all stared at them as the 9 cars passed by them. Taking each turn and blasting through it, it looked like they were watching pros drifting up the mountain pass. But the most capturing one was the Mustang. It's rare seeing a muscle car in Japan, more so a right-hand drive at that. Usually there would be either Mazda RX-7s, Nissan S15s or even Mitsubishi Land Evos drifting through this area. Reaching the top of the mountain, there was a parking lot with an amazing view of Mustafa. Driving onto that parking lot, Izuku and his crew instantly made themselves present. Reversing into the 9 parking spaces, it looked like they would have a car meet. Exiting his car, Izuku was laughing his ass off at Silver's antics since she hated it when he doesn't listen to her and does some god-awful dumb shit in her presence. God, I hate you so much, do you know that? She got out of the car and yelled at him once more. I know, Blueberry. He winked at her, earning him another blush. The others were chuckling at their bickering. Looking at his watch, it was 4:54 a.m. They stood there on the viewing platform and took in the slowly rising morning sun over the Mustafa skyline. Unknown to them, there were a bunch of people up there gushing over their cars, but one person in particular was looking at Izuku. Taken back by the driver of the Mustang, she stood there not believing what she just witnessed. Izuku Midoriya, her former classmate, driving down the streets of Mustafa with a bunch of unknown people. She was worried about him, thinking he got into some trouble since he rushed over the crossroad in a hurry and the other 8 cars following him close behind. Turning to one of her bodyguards, she ordered them to follow them and see where they are heading to. Good God. I hope you didn't get yourself in trouble. Aoi Rozu sighed to herself as she waited for her butler to arrive and bring her where Midoriya is headed to. As she was being driven up Mustafa Mountain, she was confused because she has never seen so much smoke in this area, let alone at that time of day. It was unusual for her. Excuse me, Yuta-san, may I ask why there is so much smoke at this time of day? That's an easy answer, Momo-sama. At this time of day, there are a lot of so-called midnight runners or racers up and about. They race down the mountain in the dark of the night, performing dangerous stunts. They battle each other to see who is the better driver and has the better car. Her butler explained to her. Is that so, but what does that have to do with the smoke? The smoke is a byproduct from their tires. They produce smoke as they drift around each corner and hairpin to take the shortest and fastest route to save time and power. If you downshifted a turn so you drive through it normally, it would cost you a lot of time in a timed race, but if you do a so-called clutch kick, the car of the driver gets an additional boost that can swing the back end of the car around the turn. The best example are these fine gentlemen that are right in front of us, ma'am. Looking through the front window of the car, there were 2 cars drifting up the mountain in front of them, a Nissan 200SX and a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution X. Watching the cars, she was amazed how easy they made it look drifting around the right-hand turn that was coming up. She never knew that there was such an interesting scene in the dawn of night. To be fair though, she barely gets to leave the house this late. After a while driving up the mountain, they reached the top. There were a lot of people there, it was somewhat crowded. Getting out of her car, she started to wander around the parking lot. There were a lot of people gathered around different cars, gushing and talking about them. As she continued to wander around, she spotted a huge crowd that were having a commotion. That's when she spotted him again. Izuku Midoriya was standing there, at the viewing platform. But something inside her made her feel uneasy. The mop of green hair was standing next to a blue-haired girl. She was somewhat taller than Midoriya herself. That person was wearing a crop top, leggings and high Vans. As she watched their interaction, she felt somewhat jealous. But her concern was quickly pushed aside when someone started to yell across the parking lot. Hey! You with the green hair. A man shouted, getting Midoriya's attention. He turned around and faced the direction of the man that was calling out to him. The guy had black hair and was wearing a face mask just like Izuku. He was a lot taller than him, but at the same time looked like he was bored out of his mind. Oh. It's you again. Yeah, it's me. I challenge you to a downhill race, since you like to show off that Mustang of yours so much. Izuku looked at Silver and then over to Clipper and Zero. All 3 of them gesturing that it was his business now. Okay, I accept. He answered him with amusement. I'm Shadow, what's your name? Izuku went up to the guy and held out his hand. I'm Tanaka, from Blue Phonics. I saw you driving up the mountain and felt like you were a worthy challenger. Tanaka explained himself and shook his hand. That caused a uproar amongst the people, and the crew he was part of stood behind him strongly. I heard of your crew, quite the energetic bunch, but you don't faze me. I'm the leader of the Black Dragons. Izuku countered. His friends walking through the crowd and stood behind him. The 2 crews standing opposite of one another, staring each other down. Ever since Izuku dropped out of UA, he and his friends created the crew Black Dragon. And within a span of just a month they built themselves quite the reputation. They were known for their black and purple cars. Up until now they beat every major crew in Mustafa, though they only challenged those who were cocky or showed off. Today at 10 PM, we meet up here and have a timed tandem run. I let my guys have this mountain shut down for the race, therefore none of us can get into an accident if someone comes from the foot of the mountain. Izuku explained the conditions of the race. That's when he spotted her, his former classmate, the only person who had such a spiky ponytail with raven black hair. Although they did have eye contact, he ignored her. I'm looking forward to it. The 2 of them parted ways and headed to their cars, readying themselves for their battle in a couple of hours. Before entering his car though, he called out Tanaka once more. If I were you, I'd repair the oil leak, I don't want you running off a cliff. He in return nodded and headed off. Although he readied himself leaving the parking lot, his door was janked open by a certain someone. Looking at one another, not uttering a word, they just stared at each other for a few moments. Silver, it's best if you ride with Clipper. I have some unfinished business I have to attend to. The blue-haired girl understood what he meant and rushed over to Clipper, explaining to him why she would drive home with him. Getting out of his car again and now standing across from the beauty of Class 1A, he wondered what she was doing here at this time of hour. Yayoi Rozu. Mido. She wanted to call him by his name, but was cut off by him. Call me Shadow, when we are in public. He pointed out. Oh, okay. Shadow-san. She was feeling a bit uneasy, since she acted spontaneously. At 6 in the morning, Yayoi Rozu, what in God's name are you doing here? He sighed out and asked his former classmate. Well. She stuttered out, not knowing what to say. She was taken back when Izuku's hand touched her cheek as he got closer to her. Observing her face, well, she started into his emerald eyes, since the rest of his face was covered by his face mask. You lack sleep, Yayoi Rozu. He pointed out and let her go. I'm heading home, and since it's Saturday, you'll be catching up your sleep, if you like it or not. She did as she was told, hopping in the passenger seat. Before they could leave though, she told her bodyguards that she was going with him, since they were acquainted with one another. Starting his car, all eyes fell on him as the V12 engine purred throughout the parking lot. Driving off of the parking lot and down the mountain, both of them didn't exchange a single word. The only thing that happened was that Yayoi Rozu glanced at him from time to time. She didn't know if she should feel glad or worried about her friend, since the silence made it awkward. Looking around the car, she was somewhat confused why anyone would need all this stuff. The only thing she did know though is that the car wasn't operated by an automatic gearbox, in its place was a 6-speed manual transmission. Izuku on the other hand took out his phone and connected it with his radio. Choosing a song and casually drifting around a left-hand turn without looking. Yayoi Rozu was amazed by his driving skills, but at the same time scared since he wasn't looking at the road. Midoriya. She hesitantly questioned him, only to receive the side-glancing "What is it? If I may ask. What happened really between you, Todoroki-san and Uraraka-chan?" She was unsure if he would answer her, but it was worth a shot. The only thing she did receive though was a dreadful sigh. How about we talk about it when we arrive at my place? He stated. Okay. She was a bit happy, but at the same time she didn't know if she was pressuring him to tell her what really happened. She pushed those thoughts aside and looked out of the window, bringing her attention to the surroundings. Slowly but surely she fell asleep. The last thing she heard was the radio playing. Someone told me that you would never leave me. Someone told me you would never please me. Fuck love. I don't really want it to come near me. 'Cause love isn't what it used to be. Glancing over at the Ravenet, he smiled at himself to reunite with one of his former classmates. Waking up, she found herself on a sofa. She wondered what happened and started looking around. She was covered with a fluffy blanket and laying in the middle of a car garage. She heard the faint sound of a radio playing and someone cursing. There was a clock right across of her that read 2:32 p.m. She was taken back at the time. She never imagined to oversleep this much, but given the circumstance, her body needed, since it did lack sleep. Motherfucker. She was taken back by the sudden swearing of a familiar voice. Looking over to the direction where the swearing came from, she was surprised seeing Midoriya covered in oil and Bakugo standing next to him laughing his ass off. She smiled at their antics, but stayed quiet not to disturb them. Although she tried her best, by a sudden tap on her shoulder, she yelped and jumped off of the sofa and fell face first into the floor. Ouch. Look, painful ponytail. Bakugo chuckled to himself. Yayoi Rozu, are you okay? The other questioned her. Yes, I'm alright. I just got a little jump. She felt a bit embarrassed. Looking up to the person that tapped her, she was taken back by the friendly smile that she got. I'm sorry sweetie, I didn't mean to scare you. Mama Midoriya smiled at her. It's quite alright, Ms. Inko Midoriya, but please just call me Inko. She started happily. If I may ask, what happened? All I can remember was falling asleep in the car. Momo stated. Yeah, that did happen and I carried you to the couch. From the looks of it, you needed sleep badly and Katsuki confirming that was just enough proof that I just let you rest there. Izuku pointed out. You really need to take more care of yourself, Yayoi Rozu. Bakugo stated and walked up to her, giving her a helping hand. Thank you Bakugo. Hey. Wait a minute, did you just call me by my name? She was taken a bit back by the sudden mention of her name. Well yeah. That is your name, isn't it? The ash blonde replied. How about I take it from here and you and mom go to the living room, Katsuki? Izuku stated and gestured Momo to follow her. She followed him into the back of the garage, where she was taken back by the sheer size of it. Looking around, there were multiple cars all painted in the same color, all of them had a carbon chassis with purple vinyl wrap extents, at the sides there was a dragon with a purple body and a silver-colored head. The only car she recognized was Midoriya's Subaru Impreza. Continuing looking around, there was a second floor to the garage that was reachable via satires at the right side. It was like a viewing platform for the garage, but from the looks of it, Midoriya had his living quarters there. "Yaoirozu." Izuku called out for her. She turned to his direction and saw him gesturing for her to go upstairs. She did as she was told, he being close behind her after he grabbed his phone. Looking around, she placed herself on his office chair. She didn't want it to be rude, although she really wanted to sit on the beanbag in the corner. "Yaoirozu, I can see it in your eyes. Go ahead, I don't mind." He smiled at the girl. She looked at him, smiled and happily jumped towards the beanbag, making herself comfortable. "Thank you, Midoriya." She smiled at him. He found it amusing seeing her so energetic. "Well, since you're awake now, I might as well tell you what really happened." He started. "Well, if you recall, your Raka and I were dating up until 3 months ago. I found out that she was having an on and off thing with Todoroki on the side, therefore I broke up with her and started distancing myself from everyone. After the training camp incident, Principal Nezu started having dorms on campus, and I refused to live under the same roof as those two. And a couple of days prior, Aizawa-sensei started hunting me down. Since my birthday was 3 months ago, I started becoming more and more reckless, participating in street races and running from the police, because if you're Raka." Izuku looked at the floor, if he was being honest with himself, somewhat regretful in what he did at that time. Yaoirozu was sad in seeing him in this state, but at the same time, there was a steady rage starting to build up against the gravitation user. To add to that, I did start falling into depression. One night though, I was minding my own business and came across one of my friends. He was running from the cops, so I thought I'd help him escape. Well, all in all, everything did go as planned. The only thing I didn't think would happen was that Aizawa-sensei would persuade a car chase with me. We drove from Wangan to Mustafa in just under 1.5 hours. They continued chasing me and I got desperate. At one point one of my tires popped and I crashed into a stoplight. Momo was shocked hearing this information. She would never have imagined that their teacher would be so persuasive to the point of accident. Well, the crash was mostly my fault, since I did have a drift session prior to the chase. The green had added, knowing Momo would get the wrong image of his former and her homeroom teacher. After waking up in Recovery Girl's office, I was taken to Nezua's office. There I found out that Todoroki was pressured by his father to frame me, and the rest is history. I dropped out of UA, am wanted in 10 out of 47 prefectures in Japan, and in all honesty, I'm one of the most known midnight runners in Japan. He finished telling her his side of the story. Momo just looked at him, seeing the once most persuasive student that wanted to become a hero, become an outlaw who runs from the police, and is well known in the underground car scene. "Midoriya, Izuku." Cutting her off. "Call me Izuku." He smiled at her. Blushing a bit, Momo was taken back. She remembered him being all shy and anxious all the time, but people change over time. "Then call me Momo." She returned the gesture. "I wanted to thank you again, even though we aren't classmates anymore, for always being there for me." Between all the events from Izuku comforting her at the sports festival or her joining him to save Bakugo from the villains, they were quite close to one another, even if they didn't realize it yet. "Give me your phone, Momo." She wondered what he wanted to do, but she gave him the phone nevertheless. Seeing him typing something, she realized what he was doing. He was adding himself into her contacts. "If you ever need me, just give me a call." He gave her the phone back. "I will," she stated happily. She was comfortable with him, she felt safe and cared for, and that made her happy. Following his gaze, she watched him head back down the stairs and observed his doings. Izuku went up to the 3 cars that were under his room. He unlocked the middle car and popped the hood. Although the two of them haven't realized it yet, they felt at ease in the presence of the other. It was comforting for them. In the back of Momo's mind, she knew that she had a little crush on the greenet, but she would never expect what the outcome might be later on. The same goes for Izuku. He knows how beautiful and gorgeous Yaoirozu is, although he swore himself not to fall in love ever again, this might be unavoidable. After the talk with Yaoirozu, Midoriya felt a bit relieved talking with someone about his situation. He let the young girl stay on his beanbag and turned his attention back to one of the many cars in his personal garage. Continuing working on his car, he felt a set of eyes watching his every move. Looking up, he saw her staring at him with curiosity in her eyes. "Hey, Momo, how about you come down here and give me a hand?" He smiled at the girl. She was a bit hesitant at first, but decided to help him nevertheless. Walking towards him and looking at the car he was working on. It was quite the old but beautiful car. The car he was working on was a 1990 Honda NSX, fitted with a twin-turbo V8 engine and an Alchemist body kit. "You have a Honda NSX?" the rich girl questioned him. You know this car?" He was taken back a bit, he never knew that she had an interest in cars like him. It made him happy to have something in common with her. "Yeah, my older brother owns one too. He is quite the car guy like you, Izuku." She beamed. "But if I may ask, isn't there usually a single turbo V6 engine in this car?" "Ah, yes. Usually there would be, but in this case, I motor swapped it to a V8. The car is tuned for downhill races, so for tonight. It's fitted with all the safety gear and stuff you would need, plus this thing makes about 1.300 boosted horsepower, and additional to that there are 4x14 kilograms tanks in the rear." He pointed out and popped the trunk, showing her the nose gas tanks. "Don't you think that's a big overkill?" the Ravenite questioned him. "There is a saying, the only thing that a car has too less from is horsepower and boost. I have to admit though, from the factory, the car has around 400 to 600 wheeled horsepower, so all in all, maybe I did go a bit overkill." He chuckled. "Why add more horsepower if that thing already has that much from the factory?" She was surprised that he doubled the power output of the car, but wondered at the same time, why in the world would anyone need it? "There are multiple reasons why anyone would do that. Mine personally, I'm a street racers, and the more horsepower a car has, the faster you can run from the police," Izuku pointed out. In all honesty, she never thought that those words would come out of his mouth. He changed a lot in a span of just 3 months. She was happy that he was doing well, yes, but at the same time worried about his ever-growing recklessness. Looking at the girl, he knew he said something wrong. Sighing, he grabbed a paper towel and cleaned his hands. Glancing one more time at her, he just gave her a head pat while he waited for the car jack to have the ideal height to work on. He took her by surprise at first, but she liked it. It made her feel safe, even though he wasn't giving her all the attention, he did care about her, even if it's just a little bit. She smiled as he continued to give her head pats. That happiness didn't last long though, since Izuku still has his full attention towards his car and started to take of his front wheels. "Hey." Looking at the rich girl, she stared at the mop of green hair with a disapproval pout. "You can't just start giving me a head pat and stop it in between." "Yes I can, and I just did." He smiled at her and started to disassemble his brakes. "You're so mean," she argued with him. Setting down his tools, he picked her up and carried her to his bed and threw her on it. "I'm washing my hands and then I'll continue to giving you head pats, but only until 5 p.m. I need to get the car finished before 9 p.m. He pointed out and walked to the bathroom. Momo looked at the clock next to her, the time read 3:51 p.m. She beamed with happiness. The only thing that got her off guard this time was Bakugo. He was standing by the stairs and watching her celebrate in silence. "Be Bakugo?" "Yes, Yayoi Rozu." He grinned at her. "Please tell me, you didn't see that?" She questioned the explosion user. Yes I did. It was quite amusing. Nevertheless, I'm not here because of that. I wanted to talk to you." That was a surprise for her. She never seen him be this down to earth and friendly. Just take care of the nerd. It's already a hazel enough that he needed to be betrayed like that. Make him happy if you find the chance to0. He stated and left, leaving her speechless. After a while Midoriya came back and just saw the creation user laying in his bed, all cozied up under his blanket. "Never knew you would be this bold, Momo." Turning his direction, said girl looked at him with a fainted blush. Not saying a word, she opened the blanket and tapped the place beside her, indicating that he should lay beside her. Looking at the girl with a questionable look, he was a bit hesitant to do as he was told. "It's embarrassing if you continue to stare at me like that, Izuku," she pointed out, her blush slowly growing by the minute. "Fine then, move over." He sighed out and gave into temptation, laying beside the Ravenite. She instantly cuddled up to him and buried her face into his chest. Are you sure that this is fine, Momo?" Izuku questioned her again. "For how smart you are really oblivious, do you know that? I wouldn't be doing this if it wouldn't be alright with me," she pointed out, trying to force him to continue to pat her head. Okay. Just don't get too attached," Izuku stated and started to head pat her again. It felt nice, the warmth of her body and her cutely attitude towards him. It felt like he was cared for, other than his mother Katsuki. He thought back and realized something. Uraraka never showed this much affection. Not in the slightest, but this feels completely different, but wrong at the same time. Izuku lost himself in his own thoughts and started to debate with himself if it was really okay to do something like this to Yayoi Rozu. It was a bit awkward, but he didn't want it to make her sad and just went with it. Looking over to his clock, it read 4:25 p.m. Hope I can concentrate later. He thought to himself and started to close his eyes, drifting off and falling asleep. Momo on the other hand looked up to him and observed his sleeping face. She looked around her and saw the position they were in. Even if Izuku is shorter than her, he was the big spoon and she was the little spoon, his hand between her hair and his arm around her waist. She was laying on his arm and snuggled up to him as close she could. She did wonder how anyone could hurt such an amazing person to begin with. He was kind, smart, cute and a gentleman at heart. But one thing did keep her mind busy. What did he mean? Don't get too attached. She thought to herself. From her point of view, he doesn't want her to fall in love with him. Maybe he is scared to be heartbroken again. She questioned herself, but was brought out of her thoughts as the alarm rang. Looking at his phone, it was 5:01 p.m. She sighed out and gently nudged the boy that was laying in front of her. I heard it, Momo. It's alright, I'm awake. Izuku pointed out, but kept his eyes closed. And next time, use your inner voice, you picked up my habit of rambling to myself. He pointed out and got out of bed. Leaving the girl sat in bed blushing a deep red. Taking apart his angle kit of his car, we realized that this would take a bit longer as he assumed. Looking at the party heels in his hand, there was a huge crack going straight through the middle. Cursing to himself, he threw the part into a corner out of his sight. Great, just great. He said sarcastically, not knowing what to do. Taking out his phone, he started calling Candy. It's me. My angle kit needs to be welded and I have my stuff at the garage. Do you mind if you stop by and give me a hand? He questioned the pink-haired girl. I mean I could. She teased him. Candy. Oh, you know what I want, Shadow, you just have to say it and I'll be there in 15 minutes. She said enthusiastically. He kept quiet and started thinking about it if it would be a good idea. Knowing her, she wanted to override his whole CPU and give it a proper racing tune. The only problem is that his car was built to race in up and downhill races, not in circuit racing. I let you program one of my project cars, but not the NSX. I don't care if it's the BMW, my Chaser or my S13. But I won't let you put a finger on my NSX. Izuku told her. Oh come on. That car is made to be raced in circuits and all you do is pamper that damn thing. Actually, I was planning on racing with it tonight. He stated. So get you ass over to my place because we have 2 hours until the meetup. He yelled at her and hung up. I swear to God, this girl. Which girl, Izuku? He was taken back by the suddenness of Yaoyorozu. He could tell that she was jealous, but in all honesty, he did find it cute. She's a friend, Momo. She usually helps me with my cars, but she's pestering me to let her tune one of my cars and it getting annoying. He explained to her. If I think about it more thoroughly, I think she is related to Hatsume. She is what? That got her off guard. Izuku. He looked over to the girl and felt her slight killing intent. Sighing out, he just patted her head to calm her down. Don't worry about her, we are close, but friends nevertheless, nothing more. He reassured her. Now he was sure if it. The more he looked at Yaoyorozu, the more he could tell that she is slowly falling in love with him. He may be oblivious, but only because he chose to be so. He always found it a hassle to reject love confession or to confirm his feeling to other, therefore he just kept quiet and kept it for himself. Looking back at the hero in training, he did feel a bit pity for her. If he would really be in a relationship with her, there would be a lot of problems on her side of the coin. Since she is a future hero and he is a street racer, the Yaoyorozu name could be dragged down by him and he didn't want that. For now, he pushed those feelings aside and focused on the task at hand, winning tonight's race. There was a knocking sound and the garage door opened. The two of them saw a truck reverse into the garage and park right in front of them. Next time, I'm sure I'll get you convinced that I'll be able to ride a tune on that damn NSX. Candy got out of her truck and closed the garage door. Keep dreaming, not in a million years. He just looked at her unamused. Oh. Am I interrupting something? Candy questioned Izuku and Momo. Him just sighing and her hiding behind him, even if she may be taller than him. Wait, isn't that the girl that pulled your door open this morning? Yeah, she old classmate of mine and wanted to catch up on a few things. Izuku pointed out. Wonderful, how about you take care of her and I'll take care of this piece of junk? She suggested. Hey. I'm joking, I know how much that car cost, so don't get you panties wet, will you? Candy stated and got straight to work. Besides, why take the NSX if the Impreza has better control in the corners? Well, that's easy, only you and I know about my NSX, and since I'm racing today, I thought it would be a great idea to show it to the others since they haven't seen it yet. Izuku, you are my best friend and I would pay a lot of money to see your crazy ass crash, just take the Subaru or get you ass in the FC. It's too dangerous driving that thing. The mechanic pointed out and went back to welding. That got the attention from Momo and she started pulling on his cheek. Izuku. She glared at him. It did hurt, but he tried his best not looking into an angry woman's eyes. Izuku. Don't make me say your full name. Giving her a glance, he could see that she was indeed angry at him. On second thought, I think I'll just take the FC, since it's been a while. He sweated buckets. He never knew that Yayoi Rozu could be this angry. The only thing that he did notice though, was Candy laughing while she was welding the angle kit. Looking at the time, it read 7:58 PM. Hey Momo. She looked down at the green-haired boy. Isn't it about time that you start heading home? Nope. I told my parents that I'm staying at a friend's house, and Izawa-sensei is also informed. She smiled at him. You ain't getting rid of her that easy, Casanova. Candy yelled from under the car, making the two teens blush. Shut up. Izuku shouted back at her. Momo on the other hand pointed her fingers at each other and blushed a deep red. After their small bickering, Izuku went and got his stuff for racing. It wasn't much, just different clothes. He wore a blue North Face t-shirt, under a line jacket, black cargo pants and brand new high Vans. Grabbing the shoes he put them in the microwave and put the time in 10 minutes. Did you just put your shoes in the microwave? Momo was taken back, she never saw something unusual like this before. Yes I did. The reason for that is, so I don't have to walk in my shoes. If you heat up your shoes first and then wear them, the soles are stretchy enough to be already walked in. He explained to her. She was mind blown, she never thought of this before, but I did make somewhat sense to her. Okay, Shadow, I looked her over and she's ready to be driven again, just do me a favor and don't over-rev the engine. I'm not in the mood to rebuild another 4-rotary motor. Candy pointed out and packed her things. See you in a bit. She started and left. Driving up the mountain in his FC, he felt confident in winning this race. The car was tuned, fresh tiers were put on the rims, and he even had a passenger princess. In all honesty, he forgot about this car. He only bought it as a project car, and ever since he finished building it, it just stood there for almost a year, untouched. The car in particular was a 1985 Mazda RX-7 FC3s, fitted with a custom single-turbo, 4-rotary engine that made nearly 500 horsepower. The car was painted in white and was fitted with carbon parts, a hood and wing. The pop-up headlights were exchanged for custom-built headlights that fitted in their place. H&R coilovers were fitted to it and stood on Enkel 18 rims, with Toyo tires proxies. Reaching the top of the mountain, almost everyone of his crew was there waiting for him. They were confused at first, because they didn't recognize the car, but after seeing Izuku and Momo getting out of it, they were even more surprised. Goddamn Shadow, never knew you had an RX-7. Clipper went up to him. She's a fine girl alright. How long do you have her already? 7 observed the car. It was my first project car, but after finishing it last year, it mostly sits in the garage. He pointed out and transferred the stuff he didn't need into Jess's car. Looking around, the whole crew was present today, making up a total of almost 40 people. Some came from former crews they beat or new friends they met on car meets. Looking at Momo, was standing there somewhat awkward. Momo, how about you go with Jess and Silver, plus you guys can't get to know each other a bit. He smiled at her. Jess beamed, meeting a new friend, Silver, not that much. She went with the two girls and followed them down the mountain until they reached the first hairpin turn. Looking at the time, it was now 9:45 PM and Izuku and Tanaka were already waiting for the go. Although everything did go as planned, no one could have fathomed that one if the two drivers would make such a fatal mistake mid-run. Tanaka was in front and Izuku was jazzing him. Coming out of the left-hand turn, tires screeching and smoke trailing behind them, Tanaka felt that something was wrong with one of his tiers, it felt like he didn't have grip. Both cars were in 4th gear and redlining their engines until there was a horrible sound, a sound that every car guy dreaded. The sound of an engine exploding. Tanaka's car, a Nissan Silvia S14, blew its engine and therefore slammed its brakes, washing out right before the right-hand hairpin. Izuku on the other hand was too close to him to brake and reacted to slow, crashing right into him. Jerking in his seat, he slammed his head against the steering wheel. Looking at the horror that just occurred broke her heart. She was watching him and witnessed everything that has just transpired. 2 crashed cars, sirens in the distance and worried people all around her. As the 2 drivers came down the mountain, the one in front lost control and washed out, the car behind him reacted to slow and crashed right into him, sending him against the mountainside, and the second driver was sent right into the crash barrier. She shook her head and ran towards the white vehicle that was embedded into the crash barrier. The whole front was demolished, and a small stream of black smoke came out of the hood. Worried about the driver, she created a crowbar and started prying at the door. Tears started rolling down her face as she saw him laying there unconscious. Laying there unconscious, he didn't know what happened. The last thing he remembered was him racing against Tanaka. Izuku ran right into the driver's side of Tanaka's car and sent him into the mountain wall. He himself was directed into the crash barrier as they impacted each other. He slowly came to his senses and slowly opened his eyes. Ku. A faint voice could be heard. Izuku. Rang out again, but a bit louder this time. Izuku. She shouted again and forced the door open, looking at his blood-covered face. Mo. He spoke out silent and softly, but fell unconscious again. She covered her mouth and felt her tears running down her face more and more. Being pushed aside by the medics, they rushed to get him out of the car. The state he was in shocked her to her core. Standing at the start line, he was doing one last checkup on his car. Looking over his engine bay, he was a bit unsure if the rotary engine would make it. On the other side, he was quite sure the engine he built would last at least 3/4 of the run. Looking up, he saw that a Nissan Silvia S14 pulled up next to him. Tanaka stepped out of the car and greeted him. His crew parked their cars opposite of his own crew. "Oh, perfect. You made it," Izuku said to him and shook his hand. "I have to say, the whole place is locked down and we didn't pass any other cars on the way up here," Tanaka stated back. "Well, we did organize this as an official race and closed off the mountain. On the other hand, I would have never guessed to see so many spectators tonight." The two of them continued their little chat while they waited for the okay from the guys at the finish line. After about 10 minutes, the two of them got into their respective cars and readied themselves. Clipper walked up to the start line and took in the role as referee. He put up his hand and signaled the two of them, questioning if they were ready. He received a nod from both of them. Dropping his hand, you could hear the tires of both cars screeching and speeding off, Tanaka taking the leading position and Izuku the chasing position. Speeding down the straightaway, taking the first couple small turns, Izuku felt great. "Man, I forgot how much fun this car is." He was surprised that his RX-7 FC3s was still going strong. He was glued to Tanaka's rear bumper, following him into every turn, drifting through them with speed and style. The sound of the 4-rotary engine was heard throughout the whole mountain. Coming up to a right-hand turn, Izuku downshifted into third gear and clutch kicked to the point that his front wheel lifted off the ground because of the spontaneous shifting weight of the car. Tanaka, on the other hand, was doing quite well himself, taking every corner as close as possible to the crash bar or drain gutter. The two of them tandems throughout the whole course, giving the audience a nice show. They came up on the left-hand turn, drifting through it and reached the first set of hairpins, both of them upshifting and redlining their cars. Tanaka felt that he was losing grip on his tires, but he did a huge mistake. He didn't glance over at his vacuum gauge, indicating that his head gasket blew. There was a loud bang, and Tanaka's engine turned itself off, slamming the wheels shut and made him wash out right in front of the right-hand hairpin. Izuku, on the other hand, couldn't react in time, and before he knew it, he crashed into Tanaka's driver's side of the car, sending him straight into the mountainside. Izuku, on the other hand, jerked in his seat and slammed his head into his steering wheel and was knocked out. His rear end of his car was lifted off the ground and slammed down onto the crash barrier, sliding along it, hitting a fixed pillar, sending the car back off and turning it 180 degrees, slamming the passenger side against the crash barrier and coming to a complete stop. The crowd went silent. Silver instantly informed the two crews, and Jess called an ambulance for each driver, thinking the worst-case scenario. Slowly waking up, Izuku felt numb all over his body. Opening his eyes, the first thing he saw was the white hospital ceiling. Turning his head, he saw Tanaka laying on a bed to his left. Groaning, he slowly picked himself up, trying to seat himself. Though he failed, he found the remote to the bed and lifted his back up so he could see what was around him. Looking at the situation he was in, it was quite dire. "Fuck me. What happened?" he spoke to himself. Suddenly the door to the room opened and he heard something dropping to the floor. Looking at the person standing there, it was his mother, Bakugo and Yaoi Rozu. "Izuku?" the three of them questioned. "That's the name I have been assigned to at birth," he said bluntly, clearly in pain and under the influence of the drugs. Before anyone else could bring out a word, Momo dropped all her things and ran up to him, embracing him in a hug. "Fuck," he shouted in pain. "Thank goodness you're alright," Momo said and loosened her grip, knowing he was still in pain. Looking at him, he didn't have any major injuries, the only visible one being the band-aid wrapped around his head. "So, what happened?" "I think this video will explain what happened." Bakugo showed him a video of the crash. He didn't say anything, just looked over at Tanaka's to see the extent to his injuries. Tanaka wasn't as lucky as Izuku. He suffered a broken arms, a concussion, and broke the right side of his hip. "So, how long was I out?" "You have been in a coma for 2 weeks now," Momo pointed out and held him tightly. Tanaka, on the other hand. At that moment, a doctor entered the room and was surprised to see him awake. "Good radiance, you're awake. Well then, Mr. Midoriya, good to see you awake again." The greenet nodded. "Your autopsy results say you suffered a huge concussion and broke 3 ribs. I must say, in the state your car was, you are one lucky guy to survive that crash." "Thank you, doctor, but what about my friend over there?" Izuku pointed to Tanaka. "At least he tried to." "Well, the extent of his injuries are far more complex than yours, Mr. Midoriya. He suffered a major concussion, severe inner bleeding, blood loss, a broken hip, arm and 4 ribs, which of one pierced his left lung. But then again, if it weren't for the roll cage in his car, the injuries could have been far more fatal. Fuck. He was taken back, he felt pity for the man, he did run into him with at least 160 km per hour after all. Looking down, Momo was laying on his lap, still hugging him. Gently stroking through her hair, he smiled at the rich girl. I guess I should turn down on the recklessness a bit, he thought to himself. Walking through the school halls, Momo Yaoirozu was happily skipping to her next class. She thought about the events that have happened in the last 4 weeks and was quite satisfied with herself. Even if she almost died from a heart attack seeing what Izuku got himself into, she was happy nevertheless. Entering her classroom, she didn't realize she was rambling to herself. All of class 1A stared at the rich girl as she went over to her seat and sat down. Maybe I could do that. Or, no. He would definitely hate that. Or maybe, no. He already has something familiar. She continued to mumble up a storm. Man, who knew Yaoirozu would ever pick up that habit? I mean, I got used to it when Midoriya did it, but I would have never thought she would continue his legacy. Kaminari joked, only to be hit by a jab into his side by Jiro. Dumbass. She muttered and went over to Momo, trying to get her out of the storm she was brewing. Before she could interrupt her though, Momo got a message on her phone and looked at it instantly, hoping it was him. Smiling at her smartphone, she replied to the text she just received and put her phone back into her pocket. Looking up, she wondered why everyone was observing her. Is there something on my face? No, but we would like to know what made you happy. Just a few weeks ago you were like the depressed person on earth, and since Monday you're humming and smiling again. Jiro pointed out. Oh, it's nothing. Just some family business, you know, the usual, Kyoka. She smiled at the shorter girl. No, I don't believe that. Ashido intervened. If it was really a family matter, you wouldn't be so eager to get a text. Not to mention, you are one of the last person in our class that would take out their phone during recess. The pink-colored girl pointed out. Yeah, Momo, do you have a secret boyfriend or something? Hagakure teased her, only for her to fall in a deep blush. And no. It's not that. She denied that fact, but deep down she did wish for him to be her boyfriend. It's rather complicated. But before she continued, the classroom door opened and an unexpected guest entered the room with their homeroom teacher. Is Yaoirozu here? Her teacher questioned the class and spotted the Ravenite raising her hand. Ah, Ms. Yaoirozu. I'm Detective Tsukauchi. I'm here today to ask you a couple of questions regarding the incident that happened a couple of weeks ago on one of the mountains in Mustafa. The detective informed her. But of course, we would be in a separate room, so everything can be confidential. No, I don't mind if my classmates listen into this interview. She stated and went up to the detective with her chair, sitting in front of him. Okay, if you say so, Ms. Yaoirozu. So I'll start then. First question. Were you not present at the day of the street race, on Saturday the 7th of October? Yes, I was present that day. She answered him. Tsukauchi checked her answer with his quirk and found that she was telling the truth. The class were a bit confused. On the other hand, they could have never imagined the class beauty to be interested in cars. Next question. Can you tell me what exactly happened before the crash on the first hairpin, at the first hairpin section of the mountain? Well, if I remember correctly, there was the leading car, a Nissan Silvia, I think. And a second car, the chasing car, a Mazda RX-7 FC. As they came down the left-hand turn, both cars sped up on the straightaway. The next thing I know that happened was a loud bang and the leading car starting to smoke out of the engine bay, jamming the wheels and washing out of the first hairpin. The chasing car reacted too late and crashed right into him. The Nissan was slammed against the mountain wall, while the Mazda slid across the crash barrier and came to a halt a couple of meters down as it hit a metal pole. Momo explained him what happened from her point of view. Okay, thank you for explaining it to me in detail. Last question. Were you not in contact with the street racer, known as Shadow? She knew that question would come up, since there wouldn't be any other reason why the detective is here. Yes, I am in contact with the street racer known as Shadow. Azawa and Tsukauchi were taken back a bit. They expected her to lie, but she told them the truth. Yaoirozu, how did you come across Shadow and where is he right now? The sleep-deprived teacher questioned her. I'd say it was sheer luck, and to answer your second question, I'd say don't take me for a fool, I know that you know where he is right now. The rich girl crossed her arms and legs, expecting an answer from her teacher. Yes, we do know his whereabouts, but don't have enough information about him to charge him with a sustainable crime. So, I'm asking you to. No. Yaoirozu interrupted the detective. She wouldn't just sit here and let her friend be arrested. At that moment there was a knock on the door and no one would have expected him to come here. Shadow. Oh, I'm so going to regret this. He mumbled to himself as he drove down the highway. He has been discharged from the hospital yesterday and is allowed to move freely again. Looking at the time, he slowly regretted his decision more and more. How in God's name did I even come to the conclusion to pick her up from school? Izuku questioned himself. Driving into the direction of UA High School, he wondered what the others would think of him if they found out he was a street racer. Can't be that bad, right? I mean, Kitsuki knows I do this stuff and Momo is also informed, so it should be fine. He tried sweet-talking to himself. Pulling up on the parking lot, he parked his car near the entrance. Man, this place never gets old, he stated as he walked through the gate. Luckily for him, Principal Nezu allowed him to keep his old student ID card. Entering the main building, he put on his face mask and started heading towards his old classroom. As he walked through the halls, he got a lot of questionable looks. Reaching the first floor and taking a right, he reached the classroom. Knocking a few times, he entered the class and got a small surprise. Not only did he see Yaoi Rozu being questioned, but she was questioned by no other than by Detective Tsukauchi and Izawa. Shadow. All three of them shouted in unison, as they were surprised to see him here. The rest of the class also looked at him, wondering who he was, while Bakugo was sweating buckets. Oh fuck me. Before he could do anything, Izawa wrapped him into his capturing gear. Was that really necessary now? He questioned the sleep-deprived teacher. Yes, now what on earth are you doing here? The man questioned him. Quite easy, actually, I was about to pick up Momo from school. He pointed out. Hey. Don't call me by my first name when others are around. She hid her face behind her hands, feeling embarrassed. You know what, this is actually a good timing. Tsukauchi pointed out. Do you mind answering a couple of questions? I have the time. The greenhead shrugged his shoulders. Great. Then let's get started. First question. Which car did you drive while racing down the mountain pass 3 weeks ago? I owned the 1985 Mazda RX-7 FC3s, he pointed out. But unfortunately, the car is a wreck now and finding parts for that model in particular is quite time consuming, so I'll maybe sell it or rebuild it with time. Okay, second question. What was the purpose of the race? I was challenged and to find out who would be the better driver, we agreed on a timed tandem run down the mountain. Since Mustafa is the turf of the Black Dragon and the Blue Phoenix challenged us, I accepted the race. I organized that the mountain be shut down by the city at around 9 PM until 1 AM. Thus to lessen the chances from casualties. Unfortunately my challenger blew his engine, I assume from lack of care for the car, and caused the crash. Now I don't want to say it's all his fault, since I'm equally at fault here for running right into him and not slowing down. On the other hand, I reacted too late and was far too close to evade the car. Izuku gave him a detailed explanation. Thank you for the detailed explanation. And the last question. What is your relationship with Ms. Yaoi Rozu? That is a personal matter to which I don't need to give an answer to. He looked at the detective. At that moment the class bell rang, indicating that the school day is over. Now then, if you excuse me, Momo and I have a date we need to get to. Hearing that, the rich girl quickly packed her things and followed Izuku. Izawa on the other hand stopped him once more at the door. Bring her back at 11 PM and no street races, do you understand me? He glared at the teen. Are you stupid? I don't do races when I have a passenger, only idiots do that kinda thing. But that said, he left the room, with Momo following close behind him. She was beaming with joy that Izuku picked her up. Unknown to them though, half of Class 1A was following them. They saw them walk to the parking lot and get into Izuku's car. Holy. Ashido started. Mother. Siro continued. Of Jesus. Hagakure added. Fuck. Jiru finished. They were all stunned to see their classmate enter a Ford Mustang. Hey, bro. Kirishima nudged Kaminari. Yeah bro. The electric user questioned back. Wasn't that a 2015 Ford Mustang GTR TR edition? The redhead questioned him. Yep, that sure was one, not to mention that it was fitted with a GT-style trunk back wing and a body kit. Kaminari added. I don't have a boyfriend my ass, she was totally embarrassed. Ashido grinned from ear to ear. Not to mention that they're going on a date. The invisible girl stated. That's all nice and all, but something smells fishy about that guy. If Izawa-sensei and the detective know him, he must have a criminal record. Jiru pointed out. You guys are overthinking it too much. Came from behind them. As they all turned around, they could see Bakugo walking up to them. And how would you know Bakugo? The purple-haired girl questioned. Because I'm friends with Shadow, and to add to that, no Yaoi Rozu and him are not dating, at least not yet. What do you mean with not yet, Baku bro? The redhead went up to his bro. What I mean is that the two of them have a crush on one another. That's great, isn't it? But if they have feelings for each other, why didn't they confess yet? The acid user wondered. Because it's complicated, Shadow is a street racer. He is the leader of Mustafa's ever-growing tuning crew and Yaoi Rozu. Well, that's self-explanatory. Wait. You mean the shadow from the Black Dragons? Zero questioned. Yep, the one and only. The explosion user looked at him. Okay, now I see the problem here. Kaminari trailed off. The girls on the other hand wondered what they were talking about. Would one of you be so kind and fill us in? Jiru demanded. Shadow, also known as Tokyo's most wanted midnight runner, is a street racer that is wanted in 10 out of 47 prefectures. Last month alone he broke his old speeding record of 285 km per hour, with his new record sitting at 367 km per hour. Kirishima explained to them. To add to that, he created the crew Black Dragons, beating every major car crew in Mustafa. Rumor has it, if you ever see a black and purple car with a dragon livery on the sides, don't challenge him, they are extremely skilled drivers with no regrets losing their life, just to win a race. The yellow-haired boy added. Shadow suddenly showed up in Tokyo about 4 months ago and made a name for himself by always embarrassing the police with his crazy stunts he pulls off. Zero pointed out. But if he first showed up in Tokyo, why is he here then? Hagakure wondered. Easy, he struck a deal with the city of Mustafa. If he gets control over all the rough street racing groups in Mustafa, he's allowed to race on any mountain of his choosing, closing it down so no pedestrian can get in danger. The only danger there is are the racers racing down that road. And to the surprise of everyone he did just that within 1 month. Bakugo explained the situation. He sounds like a really bad pain in the ass. Maybe I should ask her later when she comes back. The musical girl pointed out. He sure is. A sleepy voice aided. Turning to the direction, their teacher walked up to them. And I advise you to leave Yayoi Rozu alone, she's quite sensitive when it comes to the topic. Oh, sensei. If I may ask, why is that? The invisible girl questioned. Normally I would be quiet, but for the sake that you guys don't bother Yayoi Rozu, I'll tell you what happened. I mean all of you saw how she was acting the last 3 weeks. The reason for that was Shadow. He was in a 2-week coma since he was part of a devastating car crash. So that was the reason why Bakugo took care of her. Jiru was surprised. Hey. I'm not a bad of a guy, I just have anger issues. They continued to talk and tease Bakugo on their way back to the dorms. On the other side of town though, Izuku just drove into his garage. Go ahead, I'll finish things up and then I'll accompany you. Izuku pointed out as he got out of his car. Okay. The Ravenet said happily and skipped away. Cute, Izuku thought as he watched her walk up the stairs to his bedroom. Like what you see. She winked at him, earning her a blushing broccoli. Damn, this girl is going to be the end of me. He thought as he looked away. Sitting in his Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution X, he rev shifted into a lower gear and drifted over the upcoming crossroad, taking a left-hand turn. Close behind him were multiple police cars chasing after him. Shifting in a higher gear, the sound of his V8 engine could be heard 3 streets down the road. Coming up to a roundabout, rev shifting again, he inertia drifted into it and exited out of the way he came from. Pressing the nose button on his steering wheel, he pulled away on the straightaway and drove in the direction of the highway, escaping the cops. Right before he drove onto the highway, he received a call. Looking at his phone, it was from Momo. Yes, is something wrong? He put her on speaker. I think I'm being followed by someone, please come pick me up, Izuku. The girl pleaded. Send me your location now. Doing as she was told, Izuku saw that she was about 20 minutes away from him. Making a U-turn and driving into Momo's direction, he ran multiple red lights, avoiding oncoming traffic and swerving around cars. Taking a left he brake-checked a truck, but he didn't care, speeding down the city he saw her in the distance running from a couple of guys. The stoplight turned yellow, he on the other hand picked up the pace and drove over the crossroad, drifting to a halt and exiting his car. Momo instantly recognized her favorite broccoli and ran up to him. Hey, kid, why don't you let that babe go, she's way out of your league. One of the guys pointed out. That may be true, but I think you guys should back off before you get hurt. Izuku talked back. Oh? And what are you going to do? It's 1 against 5. Another one grinned. Who said I was alone? And with that said, multiple cars pulled up on the scene. They all had the same paint job and livery on the sides. About 10 cars pulled up and another 20 got out of them. Hey, we don't want any trouble. The 5 of them slowly backed away, only to be stopped as they bumped into Buster. The big guy looked down at them, he wasn't very amused seeing them. Buster is a big and muscular man, driving a white Ford F-150. Let them go, Buster, the heroes got it from this point onward. Izuku ordered as he saw the pro hero Hawks land beside him. Shadow. The hero greeted him. Chicken nugget. He greeted back. You do know I hate you. Hawks responded. The feelings are mutual. Well then, since you're here now, I'll be taking my leave and say hi to Thumper for me, will ya? With that said, Izuku grabbed Momo by the hand and walked to his car. Driving home, he took multiple glances over at the Ravenet. She seemed down and deep in thoughts. What ice cream flavor do you like? He questioned her. Huh? She was taken a bit back by the sudden but random question. I asked you what ice cream flavor you like. Oh. Amarena cherry. She answered him. Good to know. He smiled at her and made a U-turn. Driving into the direction of garage of his crew. The girl on the other hand wondered what they were about to do. Arriving at the shop, he parked his car next to Clipper's RX-7. She never has been here before, so she wondered what they were doing at the other side of town. Walking around, she spotted Jess and Silver sitting on a car lift eating and chatting. Andy was under a car, working on it, though it was covered up to be held secret from others. Izuku, what are we doing here? She just saw him walk up to a fridge, get an unmarked tub out of it, and grabbed a bowl and a spoon. Walking up to him, she saw him preparing her ice cream. Here, eat as much as you like. He smiled at the ravenet. She was grateful that he cared so much about her. Taking the bowl of ice, she seated herself on the sofa by the corner. I'll be working on my car. If you need anything, be free to ask me, okay? He smiled at Yaoi Rozu and gave her a small peck on the cheek before leaving. She started to blush a bit and watched him walk over to the car he demolished a couple of weeks prior. After a couple of hours just hanging out at the shop and watching him work, multiple police cars pulled up on the facility. Shadow. A grumpy voice shouted. Peeking up from underneath the wide RX-7 FC, he saw Tsukauchi walk up to him. What do you want, detective? He didn't pay any interest at him and continued working in the car. Momo on the other hand gave him a gentle smile and waved at him. This is the 4th time this week you humiliated the police, what the hell is up with that? Tsukauchi interrogated him. Quite easy, go to my Mitsubishi Lancer and take out the USB stick in the glove box. There should be multiple files on corrupted cops and heroes on that thing. Izuku walked past him and grabbed his welder. Wait, what? The detective was taken back at that statement. Like I said, I had a friend look into something and he found out that there was a mole under your mists. The green had explained to him and started to weld on his car. The detective was dumbstruck at his off-going nature. Besides, I have more important thing to do right now, one of them being taking care of Yaoi Rozu while the other is fixing my car. I'll give you more info when I get it. He pointed out and pointed at the door, indicating that they should leave. Although he did have plans on this wonderful Thursday afternoon, someone special would hinder him from doing so. Sitting in his shop, every 5 minutes he would be interrupted by Momo trying to get his attention. Either she would steal his tools or just straight up annoy him until he paid any attention to her. Right now, she had her arms wrapped around his shoulders while he was crouched down and trying to mount his radiator. Izuku. Pay more attention to me. She demanded. He sighed out and put down his tools. Jess and Silver were snickering at the sight they had in front of them, it was quite comedic. Zero and Reaper wondered how she was able to get so close to him without him snapping already. Momo, I hold you dear to me and all, but please, let me at least mount my radiator. He pledged. No. I want you to give me all your attention. She whined. He sweat dropped at her antics. Although he found it cute how she was behaving, it was the first time seeing her like this. Fine, we'll get you some ice cream and then I'll bring you back to the dorms. Azawa is already blowing up my phone because you didn't go to school today. The broccoli surrendered. Momo gave him a small peck on the cheek and skipped towards his car, readying herself. You two should date already. Flipper came up to him, patting his shoulder. I wish I could, I really do, but that won't be as easy as it looks. He stated and sighed out. They heard a door slam open and saw angry sleep-deprived caterpillar standing in the doorway. Izuku, you piece of crap. Where's my student? The hero shouted. Oh, fuck. Yaoi Rozu was taken back by the sudden mention of the former student. She assumed that her teacher knew Shadow, but didn't know that he knew that Shadow was Izuku. Azawa grabbed the mentioned kid by the collar and questioned him again, only to receive the direction where he pointed to. Yaoi Rozu. The hero said with a stern voice. Why yes sensei? She shakingly smiled at him. Why weren't you in school today? Well, you see she tried justifying herself, but was cut off by Midoriya. Nezu was informed about today, plus he should have the report that Hawks gave him about yesterday's incident. Izuku stepped in between them. He explained what happened and why she didn't attend school today. Thank you for telling me, problem child. Azawa said. Wait a minute. How do you know that it was Midoriya, Azawa-sensei? The Ravenet wondered. Izuku and Azawa looked at one another and then back to the girl. I mean, it's quite obvious, isn't it? He is the only student I had with green hair, not counting Tsuyu. The sleep-deprived teacher pointed out. Plus I'm the only one out of our class with a car. Izuku added. Yaoi Rozu just stared at them, blinking a few times, before she did see the obvious. Yeah, it's actually quite self-explanatory. She said, pinching her nose bridge. Izuku chuckled a bit while walking over to his car. Come on, I'll give you two a ride to the school. He smiled. As they made their way to UA, Izuku started to notice that he was being followed. Unbuckling himself and equipping his racing harness, his two passengers wondered what was going on. Momo, put on the racing harness, and Izawa-sensei, please hold on tight. He stated and started to pick up his pace. Problem child Izuku, what are you doing? The two of them shouted at him. Not saying anything, he continued to focus on his driving, turning on his intercom. This is Shadow, I have several 12 to 66 on my tail, requesting backup. He said into his radio. Izawa turned around and looked out of the back seat window, seeing multiple cars, with the same paint job, chasing them. Izuku continued to swerve through traffic, trying to shake them. He slowly regretted taking the Land Evo instead of the Impreza. Shadow, where are you heading to? Said a feminine voice over the intercoms. Jade. Is that you? He questioned. Yes, it's me, now tell me where the hell you are. She demanded. I'm heading to UA High School. He pointed out. I'll take care of them on the third crossing. Jade stated and went offline. Continuing to slither his way through traffic, the crossroad in front of him turned red. Looking over to the bicycle lane, he took it and passed the cars, running over the red light. He heard a loud crash behind him. Looking in the rear view mirror, he saw that a truck collided with two of the cars that were chasing him. Problem child, you're in so much trouble as soon as we arrive at school. His former teacher threatened him, but he ignored it and continued to drive as recklessly as he can. The third crossing came up, and the green readied himself to drift to a halt. As he did a 180 on the crossroad, Jade drove through and cut the remaining chasing cars off, sending one of them into a lamp post. Getting out of his car, he looked what happened. Eyeing down Jade as she exited her own car. Fuck man, in what kind of bullshit did you get yourself into this time? She shouted at him. Only to receive a shrug. Looking over to one of the cars that were chasing him, it was a crew he recognized. Those motherfuckers still won't give up. He said. Jade wondered what he meant, but after seeing the livery on the side, she knew in what kind of trouble they were. You messed with the league. Jade went up to him and grabbed him by the collar. Though he wanted to bring out a word, there were multiple screeching sounds heard as cars stopped besides Izuku's Lancer. It was Zero, Reaper, 7, Clipper and Stalker. As they walked up as them, the five of them could feel their heart sinking as they saw the logos on the side of the cars. Izu. Shadow, what's going on? Momo questioned him as she and her teacher got out of the car. Shadow. Don't tell me you messed with the league. The underground hero questioned him, knowing full well who was chasing after him. How should I even interfere them when I don't even know how to contact them? He stated, but realized something. Unless yesterday's incident is connected to them. Alright problem child, you and your crew will be staying at UA for the time being. The teacher said and called Nezu. Well, you heard the man. Izuku stated and walked to his car. The rest of them did the same and followed Izuku to his former school. As they arrived, the gates opened and they drove onto the schoolyard. The students around them all eyed them down as they got out of the cars. Some of them recognized them, while others questioned what they were doing on school grounds. Getting out of his car, Nezu and Midnight were already waiting for him. Ah Shadow. Good to see you again. The Chimera smiled at him. He in return just nodded. There were a lot of gossiping and whispering as they heard his name. Among the male students he was known, but to the female students he was just another random boy driving a car. I apologize for the suddenness, but I hope you can let us stay here until we get rid of the league. Izuku stated. Of course, you and your crew are always welcome here at UA. Nezu cheerfully said. Izuku looked back at his crew and nodded, signaling that the others should pack everything up and head to UA. Jade, Zero and Reaper started to make some phone call to the rest of the team, while Izuku discussed where they would be staying for the time being. We need a garage big enough for at least 40 to 50 cars, tools, not to mention spare parts and a place for the trucks. To add to that we need a bunch of car lifts to work on our cars, and Nezu smiled at the former hero in training. He reassured him that he would organize everything that he needed. Shadow, Candy and Buster are taking care of our cars, while the rest are packing up their things to move to UA. Jade informed him. What are we going to do about our livery? The league clearly knows how our cars look like, so we need to change the paint job and livery. Zero questioned. We will take care of that later, for now we need to settle down and lay low for the time being. Izuku ordered. They all followed Izawa to the dorms. He explained the rules of the school and that they should cause so much problems. As they entered, the 7 of them got questionable looks from Class 1A, even more so as they saw Momo walking and holding Izuku's hand. Okay problem children, listen up, from today onward we will be having the black dragons on school grounds, so I advise you to not bother them. Their teacher pointed out. The boys lost their absolute shit while the girl were wondering who they were. Shadow, it's Candy. She and the others are standing in front of UA with about 4 trucks worth of cars. Jade pointed out after ending her call. Izuku looked at Izawa and he gave the word to Nezu, letting the rest of Black Dragon onto school grounds. Walking into the direction of the schoolyard, there were a lot of students admiring the cars that were sitting on the trucks. They watched as they unloaded the cars and were taken back by every single car when its dedicated driver started its engine. As they watched Izuku and his friends walk up, a lot of mumbling and gossiping started. Mostly the boys, but also some girls recognized the masked driver. Looking around, Izuku was somewhat troubled. The truck he was looking for hasn't arrived yet. Stinger. Come here for a sec. The masked boy shouted out. Stinger walking over to him, he could already tell what he was going to say. Hey boss. Buster and his crew are taking care of the top secrets, if you're wondering where they are. The teen informed him. He patted him on the shoulder and continued looking for candy. He knew his crew was big, but now seeing everyone here, he was taken back by the sheer size of it. Seeing the black and gold wrapped LB Works GTR, he walked over to it. Zero, Reaper, Clipper, 7, Stalker and Jade helped the others unload. As he walked up to the pink-haired girl, she was just undoing a tension belt on his Subaru Impreza. Looking over the truck, there was his drift Stang, the BMW M3 and RX-7 FC. Candy, did everything go smoothly? He questioned the pink-haired girl. She looked up at him and stayed silent, looking at the floor. Candy, is everything alright? He questioned her again. She just looked at him with pity in her eyes. It's about Silver. She started. On the way to UA, the League caught up to us and Silver. She trailed off, Izuku wondering what she was on about. Candy, what happens to Blueberry? He asked her with a stern voice. Silver and him were quite close, not in the romantic way, more like in the sibling kind of way. He knew her since middle school, and he would be damned leaving her behind. She's in the hospital right now. Jess is with her. Silver purposely crashed into a 12-66 to get them off my tail. But due to the collision, she lost control over her car and crashed into a sidewalk barrier. Candy told him. He didn't say anything, he just ran in the direction of his Lancer and jumped in the car, starting it and getting a lot of weird looks. Driving off with screeching tears, he drove off of school grounds and wanting to head it to the hospital. Reaper on the other hand got wind of what happened and got into his R32 and cut him off. The two of them sat in their cars and just stared at each other. Reaper, get out of my way. Izuku demanded as he got out of his car. Fuck no, are you out of your mind? I know you worried about her, but get you shit together. If you go out there right now, the League is waiting to get your ass, especially your ass since you're the one leading the Black Dragons. Reaper went up to him, grabbed him by the collar, and slammed him against Izuku's car. Okay ladies, as much as I would like to see how this is going to end, you two need to end it here. Jade and 7 came up to them, separating the two. Fine then, get everything done, and then we will meet up in the common room of Class 1A. Izuku said and walked off. Jade looked over at Reaper and punched him in the guts. Are you out of your goddamn mind? He was a fucking hero in training. He could have seriously injured you. She silently shouted at him. You think I don't know that? I can't let him go on a rampage, the League would catch up to his ass and finish what they started. Reaper hissed back at the shorter girl. Kicking the doors open of the dorms of Class 1A, Izuku was fuming with rage. He saw Izawa, grabbed him by his capturing gear and dragged him into the kitchen. The students around them just wondered what had happened just now. Shadow, what the hell? Where's the beer? The teen questioned him. This is a school, we don't let the students keep alcohol on campus. Izawa answered him. Bullshit, I saw the third year's fridges, plus I'm not a student here, so I'm asking again, where's the alcohol? Because God help me if I don't get drunk in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to do something stupid again. The two of them continued arguing, unknown to them that a certain purple-haired girl was listening. Jiru, stop spying. Izuku suddenly pointed out, surprising the earphone user. How did you? She questioned him, but was ignored. Walking back to the common room, the rest of his crew was standing there. All in all they were about 30 members, surrounding one big table. Izuku went to them, sighed out and slammed his hands into the table. Since the League knows how our cars look, we need to keep our identities a secret. They might be strong, but we are stronger. We have the skills and the cars to beat them. If they think they can come to our turf and push us away, they can think again. For those who don't know who or what the League is, it's an organization that control the majority of the street races in Japan and around the world. They have cops, even heroes on their side, so we need to be extra careful from this day forward. Since most of our cars only have the livery on them, we will take that off and just leave our crew name on the chassis. You can choose freely what you want to have on the car, as long we can identify you as one of our own. The Greenhead explained the situation. Several hands shot up. Before any of you question how we will keep ourselves secret, you'll be wearing these. He threw a bag of face masks on the table and took of his own to show his face to the crew who didn't see him without a mask yet and introduced himself once more. There was a lot of mumbling among them. My name is Izuku Midoriya, also known as Shadow or the former hero in training Deku. There was a chilling silence in the room. On one side the crew got to see their leader without their face mask, while on the other, Class 1A was taken back by the sudden mention of their former classmate. The door opened once more, Jess and Silver walked into the room. Seeing their friend without a face mask was a bit weird for them, but looking around, they understood why he showed his identity to the rest of the crew. Seeing Silver on the other hand, lifted a huge burden off of Izuku. He was happy to see her safe and sound. There was one student though who was shocked more than everyone else, seeing him again. It's been a couple of months now and she hadn't heard from him ever since. That student in particular was no other than his ex-girlfriend Ichako Uraraka. She wanted to go up to him and see how he was doing, but stopped when she saw her classmate, Momo Yaoirozu, walk up to him and hug him from behind. She felt a bunch of emotions towards the girl, anger, sadness, confusion, but most importantly jealousy. Hold up a minute. Our captain was a former student at UA's hero course and through it to be a street racer. One of them questioned. No, I was framed for being a traitor without proof. Therefore I quit and continued my passion for street racing. Izuku corrected him. But that's not important right now, what's important is that we show the league where they belong. I have a question. Stalker pointed out. Where is Buster and his crew? He's doing me a solid. He's picking up some new toys from a few friends of mine. The green-haired kid grinned. The front doors opened up again, turning into the direction. Buster and his crew came walking in, with two additional people walking close behind. One being an older man with glasses, while the other seemed a bit younger. The crew lost their absolute crap as they recognized the two men. The first one with the glasses being Smokey Nagata, while the other was the founder of Liberty Works, Wataru Kato. Yo, Smokey, what's up? Izuku went up to the guy, stretching out his hand. Ah, Shadow-san. I heard that the league is trying to mess with you, so I will give you my aid. The old man smiled at him. Shaking hands, he was happy seeing the young teen doing well. To think that a 16-year-old would go against the league's will, you my child have some guts. I don't know if it's smarter to go against Ferris laws or against the league, but you have my aid. Wataru Kato stated. Everyone was shocked seeing two legends standing next to the green-haired boy. Smokey Nagata and Wataru Kato standing right in front of us. Kirishima trailed off. Not to mention that Midoriya is Tokyo's most wanted midnight runner. Shadow. Kaminari added. Yaoirozu on the other hand chuckled at their antics and walked over to her favorite broccoli, hugging him from behind. Izuku turned around and looked up to the girl taller than him, wondering what she wanted, but he figured she just wanted attention. Okay people, we have a shop to build and cars to tune, so get to work. We have top secrets tuning knowledge and Liberty Works recourses to build our cars. Izuku pointed out and gave orders. The crew went straight to work and walked into the schoolyard. Nezu made sure that Cementos would build them a big enough garage to fit everything under one roof. They were stationed next to UA's support course's workshop hangars. Walking into the building, they were a bit taken back by the sheer size of it. Izuku chuckled to himself, knowing that the white rat did go overboard. Opening the garage doors, there was already a truck waiting to be unloaded. Opening the trailer, there were multiple car lifts and shelves inside. Oh god, the rat did really go all out again. He said. The crew did work overtime to get the garage set up as fast as possible, meaning the sooner they finished building and decorating the place, the sooner they could hunt down the league. The garage consisted of three major areas: the front, the garage itself and the back of the garage. The front yard of the garage, there were mostly over-roofed parking spaces where the drift cars, Buster and his crew's pickup trucks and spare tires would sit most of the time. Inside the garage itself there were around about 25 car lifts placed in a L shape. The first 20 car lifts were for the rest of the crew excessive, while the back 5 were mostly occupied by Shadow and his friends. There was an additional paint booth and storage area for spare parts. Liberty Works also took their liberty and had an area cleared out to fit varieties of body kits, from Liberty Works itself to Varus and Rocket Bunny. Smokey Nagata set up a dedicated area to do engine swaps, with multiple 1Js, 2Js, RB25s and SL engines in a separated storage room. The backyard of the garage consisted of a parking area for the 18-wheeler trucks and the rest of the cars of the crew. The whole parking area had a roof to prevent the cars to get wet and start rusting. Everyone in the Black Dragons had the respective role to uphold. Therefore the crew name Black Dragons was an overall name that held multiple sub-crews that specialized in different professions. There was Buster's crew. Silver 6, a crew of 6 drivers all specialized in getting the cops to back down. They all drive a pickup truck with a modified crash bar on the front and a reinforced chassis. They were the tanks of the crew. There were Buster himself, Sprinter, Forecast, Sergeant, Six and Rescue. Each one of them imported their car from the US and Germany. Then there was the Hazards, they were a crew specialized in mechanical engine upgrades and nose. They consisted of a crew of 10 mechanics all led by Candy. She was the head mechanic that worked under Shadow and his crew. In addition to the Hazards, Smokescreen was a crew of 5 drifters that compete in the Formula Drift Japan, JFD, series. All 5 of them drive a 2JZ swap Nissan S15. There was Samet, Sticky, Stunt, Stalker and Sidewalker. Project Alpha was a special set of people who work in the underground scene of the black market, delivering and receiving orders and packages from the Yakuza up to the Japanese military. Like Shadow, all of them were wearing a face mask to keep their identities secret from the public. The only known information was that they consisted of 3 drivers. Rotary Expansion was another crew that belonged to the Black Dragon, mostly consistent of rotary-powered vehicles. They were the biggest crew that belonged to the Black Dragon with 20 drivers, each one having a twin, triple or quadruple-powered rotary engine in their car. It didn't matter if it was a Land Evo, a BMW or even a Miata, the only thing they upheld were their love for the rotary engine. Last, but not least came Shadow's crew. Midnight Shadows. They were there to mess with the cops as much as they can. Getting their attention and humiliating them day in and day out. In total the Black Dragons consisted of more than 50 people, they all followed Izuku and respected him for his skills, remarkable knowledge and analyzing habit. Right now, the crew were in the garage working, chatting and fooling around. But one thing was on everyone's mind, what was underneath those covers. The 5 car lifts in the far back were all occupied, 2 of them covered up with a car cover. Occasionally either Shadow, Silver or Candy worked on the 2 mysterious cars. Not taking it anymore, Stalker walked up to them. "Hey, boss." Izuku turned around and saw him coming his way. "Yeah, what's up Stalker?" The green-haired teen questioned Hinz. "Enough with the mysteries, we all want to know what's under those covers," the blue-haired drifter pointed out. Chuckling to himself, Izuku walked to the first car and tugged on the cover. Everyone of Black Dragon walked up to them and could never have fathomed to see those cars in their thresholds. Standing there they couldn't believe their eyes. There were the 2 cars that were uncovered. One being white with the Black Dragon livery on it, while the other was painted black with a paint splash kind of theme. But that wasn't the only thing that was so shocking to them. In the far back was a 3rd mysterious car that he too uncovered. He smirked at them, knowing full well that they were blown out of their socks. And no way. Jade walked up to the cars. "How in the world did you get your hands on those?" Forecast was taken back quite a lot. The 3 cars Izuku uncovered were quite a shocker to them. The first one that would be hard to get, even if you looked at auction, you'd have to pay a fortune for it. It was a Honda NSX. Sitting in 3-piece rims and fitted with the Airflux air suspension. The car was fitted with the Alchemist body kit. The second car, one that caused a lot of trouble for the Midnight Runner himself, a wide-bodied Ferrari F40 Liberty Works. The whole chassis was changed and its signature pop-up headlights were removed. And the final car, that car, you had to pray that the Swedish man himself would send it. It was quite a hassle to get one into Japan. This car was like no other, having a full carbon chassis and carbon rims, it was one of a kind. The car in particular, a 2016 Koenigsegg Ragia. Everyone was blown away by the reveal of the cars. "How in the world did you get your hands on that Ragia?" Samet questioned the green-haired kid. "You were the one who was in court for wide-bodying F40. Rescue pointed out. Question after question were sent to the teen, the only response he gave them was a light chuckle. Okay, calm down, I can explain why I own these cars." The green-haired teen smiled. Although he wanted to explain the reasoning, he was interrupted by a sudden call. It was Momo. "Yeah, Momo, what's up? I'm in a bit of trouble right now, so you mind helping me out?" The rich girl chuckled to herself awkwardly. "What happened? I'm on my way." He responded and grabbed his car keys. He signaled the others that it was urgent and that a selected amount of them should join him. "I'm with my parents right now." Yayoi Rozu trailed off. Izuku stopped in his footing and was taken back a bit. "Okay and?" He held up his fist, the others understood and calmed themselves. "Well, one thing led to another and they want to meet you." Sighing out, Izuku understood what the problem was. "Okay, send me the address, I'll be in my way." He relaxed and grabbed his other keys, the keys to his NSX. That caught the attention from the rest of the crew. Looking at them, he smiled at them and told them that he should just meet the parents of Yayoi Rozu. "Well, if it's just that, then it should be okay man." Sidewalker went up to him. "Go get you girl," he whispered into his ear. It made Izuku blush a bit, but not so that anyone could recognize it as such. "I'll be on my way then. Buster, you and your crew will escort me until I'm on the highway," Izuku ordered. "Will do captain," he replied and got in his truck. Andy and Silver, finish up the other 2 runners and make sure to test them later today. Izuku shouted out of the NSX as he drove off. Buster and his crew followed shortly after. As they were cruising down the city, they were watched by a lot of pedestrians. The ones that made Izuku happy though, wasn't the stairs or the hot women watching him, no, it was the kids that watched in awe as the car passed by them. That feeling made him truly happy. He parted from Buster as he got onto on the highway and instantly floored. Taking it slower than usual, he wanted to know what the NSX could do, but therefore he needed to go onto the Toge, and that wasn't the place he should head to at the moment. Looking at his phone and seeing that Yayoi Rozu sent him another message, he smiled to himself seeing what he sent him. Well. Looking at himself, he realized it wasn't the proper attire to wear meeting someone's parents for the first time. What the hell was I thinking? He mumbled to himself. Black cargos, red t-shirt and black sweatshirt jacket. Damn, I have bad taste in fashion. On the other hand, she did say to wear casual clothes. Shaking his head and pushing those thoughts aside, he continued to cruise down the highway, listening to white girl music, like every other car guy when he is alone. Arriving at the Yayoi Rozu mansion, he was taken back by the size of it. But it was to be expected since she is the daughter of the richest family in the country. Parking in front of the front doors, there she was. Momo was waiting for him and her parents right behind her. Getting out of his car, he gave her a small wave as they came walking down the manor stairs. Izuku. She went up to the broccoli and embraced him in a warm hug. Hey Momo. He smiled while returning the gesture. Hello Mr. and Ms. Yayoi Rozu, I'm Izuku. Izuku greeted her parents, stretching out his hand to them, but was interrupted abruptly. Izuku Midoriya, yes we know. Her father stated in a cold voice while shaking his hands. He wasn't very fond of him and Izuku could see that. But I must say, you do have a fine car, is it your parents'? The older questioned him. Oh, it's mine. Very well, we will discuss further more inside. Momo sighed at her father's antics and grabbed Izuku by the hand as they walked inside the manor. Sitting there, the silence was somewhat awkward for him. Looking at the two older Yayoi Rozus, they were sitting opposite from him and Momo, both stirring their tea. The younger Yayoi Rozu on the other hand, was clinging to her favorite broccoli. If I may, Izuku broke the silence. Why was I called her so abruptly? Quite easily, we wanted to know with who our daughter is associated with. Mr. Yayoi Rozu answered him. That is understandable. Although I don't think that's the only reason I was called here, is it? Mr. Yayoi Rozu had a small grin on his face. You are certainly correct, young man. We have gotten word from one of our bodyguards that our daughter wanted to follow some street racers a few months ago. So we took the ride and investigated into the reasoning behind her doings, stumbling upon your name. And seeing that she was hanging around you for the last several months, we wanted to know why she was so fond of you. Ms. Yayoi Rozu added. Well, I can reassure you that I don't mean any ill will whatsoever. Yes, me and your daughter are associated with one another, but this is due to the fact that we are former classmates. Izuku explained to them, taking a glance at her. If I may ask, in what way are you two former classmates? Mr. Yayoi Rozu questioned back. I was a student at UA Academy. If that is so, why did you stop attending the hero school? Ms. Yayoi Rozu wanted to know. Well, a couple of things happened and it led me to unexpectedly quit the hero course. Therefore I took the opportunity given to persuade one of my other hobbies, that being my love for cars, that is. Izuku was accused for being associated with villains, since he was the only student from our class who didn't live in the dorms with us. Momo intervened. I have heard that one student did deny to the dormitory system. Why didn't you agree to? It would have been surely easier to get closer with our daughter. Mr. Yayoi Rozu was interested in his side of the story, even if it was just a little bit. Well. It is true that I denied the agreement with the dormitory system, but that is due to an incident prior to that. I was in a relationship with one of my former classmates, Ichaku Uraraka. Since we dated since the start of the school year, it did put some strain on me after finding out that she was cheating on me with one of our classmates, putting the nail on the coffin, if I may say so. After that I quit being a hero and started to persuade more in street racing and going pro. On the other hand, I ran into Momo by pure coincidence. I was testing out one of my newest cars that I had gotten and went up to Mustafa Mountain. There I was challenged by another team of street racers and stumbled upon her, but I am purposely denying a relationship with your daughter for reasons. The green-haired boy stated. What may be your reasoning? Well, to the time I wasn't really ready for having another relationship, and to add to that I quit heroing. So I had to organize my life first. To add to that, it is true what your bodyguard said, I am a street racer, but the reasoning is that since I am a street racer, I can't just get into a relationship with your daughter. It just would sit right with me. I'm a street racer, well Momo is a hero in training and the daughter of the Yayoi Rozu Corporation at that. If she would be associated with me any more than just on a friendly manner, I could drag down the Yayoi Rozu name, and I don't want that burden to sit on me. Izuku explained to them. Why would you drag down the Yaoirozu name, young man? Mr. Yaoirozu was intrigued, he wanted to know more about the kid's reasoning. Well, there's no reason denying it now, is there? Izuku mumbled to himself. I'm one of the most wanted midnight runners in Tokyo, to put it simple. I'm associated with breaking the law at night and running a car mechanic's shop in the day. To add to that, I'm on a kill list by multiple people in the league. Izuku pointed out. Interesting. But do tell me, what is this league you are talking about, Mr. Midoriya? Mr. Yaoirozu stated. The league is a group of people who run the underground car scene. From forging and manipulating races, to corrupting cops and pro-heroes. You name it, they probably done it. They are some very influential people who bring nothing but fear and chaos. Izuku explained to him. Well then. Mr. Yaoirozu stated and stood up, reaching out his hand. I certainly can see that you mean no ill will whatsoever, therefore I can agree on your relationship with our daughter. Excuse me? Izuku looked at him. You heard me, I approve of your relationship. With all due respect, I appreciate the gesture, but no. I admit that I have feelings for Momo, but I can't have a relationship with her. Izuku retorted. Momo looked at him with happiness, but emphasizes at the same time. She knew why he wouldn't have a relationship with her, and she knew he is doing it just to protect her. Mr. Midoriya, why are you so opposed to the idea? Ms. Yaoirozu wanted to know. We are giving you the opportunity to date our daughter. Usually every other guy would instantly agree to this proportion. It's too dangerous, that's why. I love her, I admit that, but excuse my vile language, no way in hell would I ever put her in danger. Izuku retorted. He does admit that he loves the Ravenet, but due to prior incidents, he wouldn't want to endanger her. Before he could continue his rant, he got a call. Looking at his phone, the number was anonymous. Fuck. Is all he could say, as he ran out of the living room where they were at and headed straight for his car. The three Yaoirozu wondered what this was all about and started chasing after him. What the hell happened? Izuku shouted into his phone as he ran down the corridor. Shadow, they're on their way to your location. Answered Clipper. Izuku on the other hand just jumped from the second floor to the middle section of the staircase and then down to the first floor. How long until they arrive? The fuck would I know? We found out as Jesse came running into the garage and turned on the TV. They showed footage of the crew swerving through traffic in formation. Clipper answered. Izuku. Wait up. Momo shouted after him. He on the other hand ignored her and rushed out the front door, jumping into his car. Get here as fast as you guys can. I'll try to shake them in the touch. Izuku responded and wanted to take off, but due to Yaoirozu standing right in front of his car, he couldn't go anywhere. Momo, get out of the way. Izuku stated as he exited his car again. Looking up the stairs, there stood the two older Yaoirozus with a few bodyguards. Young man, I hope you know what you are doing. Said Mr. Yaoirozu with a stern voice. I don't have time for this bullshit. Izuku retorted. Hearing a JZ engine coming closer, his eyes widened as realization hit him. Momo, get in the car now. He shouted and started his engine. She didn't question his words and did as she was told. Mom, Dad, get in the house now. She shouted at her parents as she got in the car. Izuku pushed down on his gas pedal and headed into the direction of the exit. Thinking the lead caught up to him, he was caught off guard when Fathemed and Stalker drifted through the gate. Slamming his brakes, the three cars almost collided with each other. Looking at his friends, he sighed out in relief and chuckled to himself. God damn it, Izuku, you had me worked up for nothing. Momo whined as she lightly hit him. I'm sorry, princess. He chuckled to himself as he backed up and let his friends enter the facility. Driving back to the front entrance, they stood there with 4 additional cars, that being Fathemed, Stalker, Clipper and Reaper. Fuck me I. Clipper stated as he exited his car. You can say that again. Reaper chuckled. Izuku on the other hand was quite confused. Okay, what happened? The green-haired teen wanted to know. You're in luck, the crew was heading to Osaka. Reaper explained to him. And the bad news? Well. Stalker started off. They were part of the league. Shadow, listen, we have to get out of here as fast as we can. We sent Project Alpha after them, but you know how the girls are. Fathemed pointed out. Looking at Momo, Izuku was a bit unsure what to do. Ahem. Looking up the stairs, he could see the unamused faces of the 2 older Yaoirozus. Oh, fuck. The 5 street racers stood there, in the home office room of the older Yaoirozus, with the younger still clinging to the green-haired teen. They just looked at each other and then back to the head of the Yaoirozu Cooperation. They could see that he was quite pissed off. Now. Would one of you please tell me what in God's name is going on? He questioned. Oh, I don't know. Maybe let's start with the fact that I did tell you too that it's too dangerous for me to get into a relationship with your daughter. Izuku started to raise his voice. This is exactly the reason I don't want to be with Momo, because of the people after me and my crew. I assumed you were just talking big. Mr. Yaoirozu compassed himself again. Talking big. We are fucking street racers. We don't talk big, we prove our point with our cars and skills. The only thing we lie about is about how much horsepower we have. Izuku slammed his hands into the desk. I don't really give a fuck if you are the head of the Yaoirozu Corporation, because I have more important things to tend to than discussing with you two if I'm allowed to have a relationship with your daughter. The green-haired compassed himself again. Now listen here, you little Mr. Yaoirozu wanted to get up and personal with Izuku, but for his disappointment, his eldest son came into the office. Mom, Dad, why do we have so many cars in front of the mansion? He walked in, realizing that he was interrupting something. Izuku, his crew and the others 3 Yaoirozus turned his direction. The 4 idiots were grinning to themselves. Momo and her mother were shaking their heads, while the others 2 were clearly at each other's throats. Mahiro, what do you want? His fathers questioned him. Though he ignored it and turned his full attention to the midnight runner opposite of his father. Why? Why is Shadow here? Izuku wasn't really surprised, since Momo told him all about her brother. You know this hooligan? Mr. Yaoirozu pointed at him. Who the fuck are you calling hooligan, old man? The midnight runner shot back. Who are you calling an old man? Who wouldn't know him? He one of the best no street racers in Japan. Mahiro excitingly explained. But I don't recall seeing your Steyr Lan Evo outside. The Honda NSX, that's mine. Izuku pointed out. But that's besides the point. You were the costumer who asked me to put a Liberty Works body kit on a Lambo. Wait, Izuku, you know my brother? Momo questioned him. Hold up, Mo-chan, you know who he is? Her brother asked back. First question, yeah, I know your brother, he's a regular costumer at my shop. Second, yes, me and Momo are former classmates. And third, we're leaving. Izuku pointed out. He turned around and headed to the door, motioning to the others to follow him. Hey. Where do you think you were going? Mr. Yaoirozu shouted at him. Me? I'm going back to my shop to finish what I started. Izuku stated and waved his hand back at him. This conversation isn't over yet, I demand you to stay here. Bodyguards. Mr. Yaoirozu ordered. As the door opened, there stood 4 massive units. Izuku just ignored them and continued walking. One of them tried to grab him, but landed instantly on the floor. What? The 2 oldest Yaoirozus were surprised. The other 3 tried to jump him, but Izuku just dodged them. As a fist came flying, Izuku caught it with his right arm, he kicked him his kneecap in and threw him on the floor. He ducked under, as a second punch came flying, kneeing him in the guts and again, kicking the guy's kneecap out of place, breaking the leg. Trying to punch him again, Izuku blocked the punch, grabbed him by the head and kneed the face of the bodyguard, knocking him out. The third guy and final bodyguard had his guard up and was causes of the green-haired teen. But to his disappointment, Izuku rushed him, grabbed him by the head and threw him through the doors of the office. God damn. The 4 idiots shouted, being impressed by the demonstration of power and skill. Momo shook her head, while her parents were taken back. How did you do that? Momo's father wanted to know. Well, I did mention that he was a former student of UA and top of my class. Momo pointed out. What kind of quirk do you have? Her mother questioned him. Which one? Izuku questioned back, leaving the 2 speechless. Mother, father, Izuku has 2 quirks, one being gravitational manipulation, while the other. That's enough, Momo. Izuku stated. My quirks are nothing but a curse and liability. One being gravitational manipulation, like Momo said, while the other is. Let's just call it fire manipulation. Boss, it's the girls. Reaper interrupted them as he received a text from Silver. They're in their way back, but need immediate backup. Tell them to head to our location, we will shack those fuckers, I'm the Tauge. Izuku ordered and walked towards his car. The other 4 following close behind him. Izuku, I'm coming with you. Momo rushed after him. He didn't say anything to her, since he knew she would probably annoy him until he said yes. The 5 of them drove off of the Yaoirozu property and drove up to a public road, waiting for the girls on the emergency lane. After about 10 minutes, Momo started to get bored and whined around. She annoyed Izuku until she had an idea. Unbuckling her racing harness and climbing over to Izuku, sitting in his lap. Izuku wondered what she was doing, but realized he was trapped after seeing the list in her eyes. Hey, you two. Leave the fucking at home and not in the car. Reaper called them out over the intercom. Momo immediately rushed over to the passenger seat and covered her face with her hands. Thank you. Izuku responded to him, earning a chuckle from the other 3. Would you stop fucking around and get you asses ready? Jess stated over the intercom. You head them, boys, the girls are here. Stalker stated as he started his engine. Samet, Reaper, Clipper and Izuku doing the same. As the 3 girls blew past them, Izuku immediately chased after them. Remember boys, ghost mode only, until we catch them off guard. Izuku ordered. Yeah, it's not like they could recognize us since they are too focused getting Jade off of the street. Clipper stated. Fuck it. I'll show them the Grim Reaper's R32. Reaper stated and crashed into the first chaser that was trying to crash into Jade. He pushed him against the crash barrier and continued to push him against it until a lamppost came out of nowhere and took it with him. 1 down, 5 to go. Reaper, you crazy shit. Stalker was taken back by the aggressive driving style of the 26-year-old. We're about to enter the Touge. Lights in and get their attention. The green-haired kid ordered. As they turned on their lights, the chasing cars were taken by surprise as the 3 girls entered ghost mode and made a run for it. The 5 street racers overtook them and mocked them a bit as they entered the Touge. Okay boys, let's show them that no one messes with a raging dragon. Izuku smirked to himself as he pulled up his face mask and handing one to Momo. Reaper, Clipper, Fathemed and Stalker did the same as they entered the first uphill hairpin, drifting around it. There was a ton of noise coming from the mountain. Tires screeching, turbos whistling and exhaust spitting flames. The couple was driving down the mountain in their Mitsubishi Lancer 3 as they just had a date. They explicitly picked this place since they had the hopes of meeting some Touge racers. Honey, hear that? Those must be Touge racers. Her boyfriend exclaimed. Really? I can't wait to see them. She happily stated. But due to both of their surprise, 5 cars pulled up to them. They threw their rear bumper out, almost hitting them and hitting the turn with immense speed. Holy fuck. The boyfriend was taken back as he pulled over to the emergency lane. Looking out the passenger window, there he could see another 6 cars chasing after them. Man. Those are some aggressive drivers. He pointed out as he heard their tires screaming. Back with Izuku and the others, they were giving the league exclusive VIP seat in the Gapple Hotel. Coming up to the next hairpin, Clipper pulled apart from the crew and made a 180 turn onto the other road side and killed his lights. Clipper, what the hell are you doing? Izuku questioned him as he drifted up the turn, almost coming into the other lane. The hunted are going to hunt the hunters. He laughed manically as he drove back down and waited for them to catch up with the others. Crazy motherfucker. Stalker exclaimed as he shifted into the hairpin, doing a backwards entry. Fathemed and Reaper following his lead, while Shadow Inertia drifted into it. You're one to talk. Fathemed shot back at Stalker. The 4 of them did the same as Clipper as they came up to the next turn. Making a U-turn with style, killing the lights and heading after the RX-7 driver. Back with Clipper, he catched up with a black Toyota Mark II. Turning his lights on, he caught the driver off guard. He panically lost control over his car and drove right into the mountain barrier. As fast as he appeared, he disappeared again. Man, I love this ghost mode. 2 down, 4 to go. Clipper happily exclaimed. Hearing a V8 engine behind him, he smirked to himself as he recognized that familiar turbo whistle. It was Shadow, showing his high beams to signal that it was truly him. The 5 of them made a plan that Izuku, Fathemed and Stalker would go up ahead and distract them again, while Clipper and Reaper made sure to push them off the road. The 3 of them floored it and blew past the league, catching them off guard. Puta madre. A Spanish-speaking man yelled. Boy mate, those are the cunts we are supposed to get. A British-accented man pointed out. Well then get going, we need to catch them. A German-sounding man responded as he floored it. Though he thought, he was surprised as suddenly something crashed into him. Reaper turned on his lights and then started to continue pushing the guy into the crash barrier. Behind him was a BMW E30. The driver of the car wanted to assist his companion, but instead of sending the R32 into the crash barrier, he felt that something just hit the side of his bumper. The next thing he knew was spinning out and hitting the mountainside. Back with the other 2 league drivers, the Brit and Mexican, they didn't see what was coming their way. As Izuku spun around, he drove right into their direction, imitating that he was trying to kamikaze himself. The 2 league drivers evaded him, almost scraping their chassis with the Honda. But unfortunately one drove into the crash barrier, spinning out, while the other hit the mountain barrier, driving up it and flipping his car. Izuku and his crew stopped their cars on the emergency lane and got out. Looking around, they saw that one driver was still conscious. As he opened his eyes, he saw the Nissan Skyline GTR R34 from his mate, hanging in the crash barrier. Coming back to his senses, all he could remember was chasing after 4 other cars up a mountain back road, when suddenly the driver of the Honda NSX did a 180 and tried kamikaze himself. Looking around his car, a Toyota Supra Mk3, it was laying on its roof. Crawling out of his car, blood was running down his face. Suddenly he got kicked in the face and felt something heavy on him. As he opened his eyes, he could see a masked figure sitting on top of him, and the next thing he knew was a fist coming straight at him. The anonymous person continued to beat down on the person until his fist was covered with blood and the person he was beating up was unconscious. Standing up, he looked around him, making sure that it was only him and the others. I think you did enough. Stalker pointed out. He in return nodded and pulled out an emblem. It was an emblem from the crew he was part of, a purple dragon with a silver-colored head. He threw it at the body. Fucking Brits, man. Samet stated and walked up to his car, a pink Nissan S15 with a Demon Slayer water livery on it. Says the Aussie. Izuku was in the back of the other two, receiving a call over the intercom. Do you guys copy? A feminine voice questioned. Yes, Silver. He responded. Any issues? Negative, out here. He stated. Looking at the other four that were standing there, he signaled them that they would leave this place and made sure that they showed them not to mess with them in their territory. Getting into his car, he saw his passenger sleeping with her head leaned against the window. Driving down the road they came from, they evaded the other 5 cars. They ran into the crash barrier and mountainside. Damn. I thought they were tougher. Pointed out Reaper over the intercom. Don't get too cocky, it will bite you in the ass. Shadow replied. I'm not cocky, I'm stating the obvious. If they were part of the league, shouldn't they be more skilled? He retorted. Now that you say it. I think Reaper is onto something. Stalker added. We will talk about this when we're back at base. Right now, we need to focus that the league can't grow anymore as they already are. Izuku ordered. As they drove out of the mountain pass and onto the highway, their cars were lit up by the lamp posts. The first one being a Honda NSX, behind him a Nissan GT-R R32, to its sides were 2 Nissan S15s and at the back was a Mazda RX-7. Driving down the highway in formation, they made sure to assert their dominance. Reaper's R32 was quite banged up, but that would be expected if he uses his car as a battering ram. As they arrived at their destination, he was greeted by the faculty of the school they were currently staying at. Greeting them back and explaining to them for their late-night crusade, they headed to the garage. As they parked their cars and got out of them, Izuku being the first one, received a punch to the face. Luckily for him he stopped it inches in front of his face. Moving the hand away and looking at the person who sent it, it was Silver. Do you mind telling me what that shit was that you 5 pulled off? Silver was furious, she knew that Izuku would be reckless, but never knew he was this reckless. We proved our point. One of them wanted to drag Jesse into the barrier, so I showed them not to mess with the Grim Reaper, the R32 driver pointed out as he walked into the direction of the kitchen. Besides, I wouldn't really have done it since I had Momo with me. Speaking of which, I'll be bringing her to her room. Izuku pointed out and grabbed the sleeping Ravenet, carrying her princessly to her dorm. The next day. It was 9:30 am and Izuku being the crazy fuck he is, made a deal with the principal last night. The green-haired teen offered the rat god himself to play chess with him if he was allowed to wake up the first-year Hero Corps students. Driving his car right in between the 2 dorm buildings, he shifted into neutral and 2-stepped. Though he was not alone, he brought Clanker and Sidewinder with him. Both of them had a MKIV Supra, while Izuku himself was sitting in his Driftstang. The 3 of them were creating smoke and making their exhaust spit flames, sounding like guns being shot. They did this for a few minutes until they saw the first couple of students run out of the dorms to see what was going on. Exiting his car, he smirked at them. Some were irritated, other annoyed, while those who were car enthusiasts themselves smiled at the new alarm clock they received. Good morning Class 1A and 1B. Greeted Vlad King and Eraserhead. The street racers we are letting refugee for the time being will be your new alarm clock. The sleep-deprived teacher smirked. The class represents, being Momo Yaoi Rozu and Tenya Iida from 1A, Itsuka Kendo and Nito Monoma from 1B, came forth and just looked at the 3 unamused. Really Shadow. Momo pointed out. She was still sleep-deprived. I expected better of you. Iida stated. Who the hell are you guys? Monoma questioned. Kendo on the other hand didn't pay any attention to them, only observing the cars. Izuku followed her gaze and realized something. I knew you looked familiar. He pointed out. It caught Kendo off guard. Me? She stuttered. Yeah you. Izuku responded. Now when you mention it like that, I did see her somewhere beefer. Clanker added. It got the curiosity from both teachers. If I remember correctly, you were driving a Nissan 180SX. Clanker pointed out. Yeah, SL swapped one at that. Izuku walked up to her, observing her facial features more intensely. How about you take a picture pretty boy, holds longer. Kendo got cocky. And yes, we did meet before Shadow. Well of course we did. How can I forget that 180SX? I helped pull it out of the crash barrier. Izuku stated and walked back to his car. Shadow, let me get this straight. You are saying that Kendo is a street racer? Vlad asked him. No. She's not a street racer, she's a Tauge racer or a mountain drifter for those who don't understand. He explained. And I came across her as I overtook her drifting up Mustafa Mountain. On my way back, I witnessed as her car failed to initiate a drift and slid right into the crash barrier. And me being me, I pulled her car out of the barrier since I had my Impreza at the time. The all-wheel drive car can do wonders. Don't expose me like that. Kendo retorted. Oh, stop whining, will ya? Izuku entered his car and started his engine. Oh, and Nezu. Yes, Shadow. The rat god himself responded to him, quite intrigued. We will get a few deliveries, just so you are informed. With that said, Izuku drove back to the garage. But before that, Momo entered the passenger seat and went with him. Driving into the garage, he parked his Mustang next to Candy's GTR. The two of them walked over to his cars, and since it's Saturday there were no lessons. Momo seated herself on the hood of his RX-7, Izuku continued working on the Honda NSX. While he was working, Momo was reading a book about dark psychology. Time went on and before they knew it, it was noon. Izuku, I'm bored. Momo pointed out as she finished reading her book, closing it. I mean, it is Saturday. So how about we head into the city and do some shopping? He smiled at the Ravenet. But their plans got a rain check when Power Loader, All Might, Eraserhead, Midnight and Nezu entered. Behind them were a couple of students from both the hero and support course. Izuku quickly turned around and pulled up his face mask. Hello, Shadow. Nezu smiled. To what do I get the privilege to see the rat god himself? The masked street racer questioned the Chimera. Well, some of our students wanted to know what you guys are doing all day long. Those that are interested in cars, that is. Power Loader explained. Izuku smiled under his mask and lifted it a bit, put a finger in his mouth and started whistling. That got the attention from some of the others that were in the garage. Listen up, some students want to know more about cars, so give them a good show and answer their questions. He yelled through the garage. The 5 drifters walked up to them and offered them a good show. Shadow, we can clear the front of the garage and do some donuts like always. Sidewalker pointed out. Do it takeover style. Izuku stated. You got it, boss. Stalker stated and started leading the students to the front of the garage. Buster and his crew got wind of what was about to happen and made some space for them. They set up some tires as a barrier and parked their trucks like such that the students could sit and stand on the truck bed and watch what was happening. Stalker and Samet got into their Formula Drift cars and started their engines. The sound of the 22JZ engines could be heard all over the garage. The others that were in the garage joined them and started filming. Stalker and Samet synchronized and started tandeming over the place. What everyone didn't expect though was Shadow. He got into his Mustang and joined them, but that wasn't the only thing. Momo was in the passenger seat. The 3 of them fooled around the front yard of the garage. Suddenly the driver's side door from all 3 cars opened and Stalker, Samet and Shadow continued drifting while standing in the doorway of their cars. The 3 idiots synchronized and stopped their drift session next to one another. There were tones of cheering from the students. Okay. Who wants to experience it firsthand? Izuku questioned the students. Several hands shot up and they could see the excitement on their faces. They picked a selected few and let them sit in the passenger seat. As they wanted to start, a black Nissan 180SX pulled up and from the sound of it, it was rotary swapped. The car on its own was impressive enough since it was fitted with a Rocket Bunny body kit and a GT-style wing, but the person that came out being the driver was more of a surprise. The 3 street racers grinned to themselves as they saw the girl standing there. All of the attention fell on her. Look who decided to show up. Silver walked into their direction. How's the old girl holding up? She said and hugged the girl. Well, since that crash, I rotary swapped it with your help and she's been driving ever since. Kendo pointed out, returning the hug. Hold up. How the fuck do you two know each other? Shadow pointed out. Standing there, Izuku was taken back by the newfound information he just received. Looking at the 2 girls, there were some things he didn't know about his childhood friend. Okay, let me get this straight. You and Kendo know each other, and why don't I know nothing about this? The green-haired teen questioned. Oh please, just because we know each other since childhood doesn't mean you know everything about me, Izuku. The blue-haired girl pointed out. That's besides the point, Aoi. What I want to know is where you guys met each other. Izuku pointed out. Suddenly Bakugo walked up to them. Hold up. Did you just call her Aoi? There's no way she's Blueberry from middle school. The explosion user stated. Silver and Izuku just stared at each other and grinned a bit. What's wrong, Katsuki? Can't remember one of your old classmates? The blue-haired girl questioned. How the fuck should I recognize you when you changed your hair color and are always wearing a mask like this damn nerd? The explosion user stated. That's the point, you anger issues having dog. Aoi fired back. Okay you two, we're getting off topic. Izuku stepped in between them. Silver smirked at him while Bakugo growled at her. Looking at the 2 childhood friends of him, he shook his head and sighed out. Anyway, tell me, how you know Kendo? Oh, that's quite easy. Itsuka and I know each other since our mothers are friends. The blue-haired girl smiled. Now, if that's out of the way, let's burn some tires. The orange-haired girl excitingly exclaimed. Both Aoi and Izuku looked at each other and chuckled a bit. Okay. Which one of you wants to go for a round first? Izuku questioned the students. On the other hand, it did feel somewhat awkward since he was an attending student not so long ago. A girl with light blue hair went up to him and accepted to go first. As the two got into the drift stang, a loud bang could be heard. Looking at the direction from where it came from, Izuku noticed that Clipper was on the dyno with his RX-7. There was another loud bang as said driver upshifted into another gear. And with each gear shift, there was another louder and louder explosion coming out of the straight-piped exhaust of the car. Crazy motherfucker. The green-haired teen mumbled to himself. Okay, you need to hold this up while you push this into the buckle. He turned his attention back to the blue-haired girl and helped her putting on the 6-piece racing harness. Looking over the girl one last time, he got into the driver's seat and started the car. Revving a few times to get the engine heated up, he started with a burnout that he turned into his drift initiation. The girl was taken back by the sudden movement of the car. As she looked at the driver, she could see the concentration he held. Looking out of the passenger window, she saw the 3S chassis following closely behind them. As the afternoon started to shift into the evening, the students and street racers were talking, chatting and even filled around. Some students were helping making dinner, some were learning about car terminology and some were helping round the garage. The 5 faculty members and Shadow were interacting with one another as suddenly one of the intercoms around the garage started to come alive. Here, Haley. Those bastards are right behind me and are trying to push me off the road. If someone can hear this, I'm on my way to Warehouse 17, please help me. The female voice pleaded. All of the street racers in the garage turned their face over to Izuku, looking for guidance to what to do next. What are you guys waiting for? An extra invitation. Get your asses moving. The green-haired teen shouted, he himself running to his car. Momo tossed him his keys for the LAN Evo while she ran to the teachers, accompanying them. Stepping on gas pedal and rushing out of the garage, Momo shouted after him to be careful. After him followed Clipper, Reaper, Zero, Clanker, Sidwinder, Sidewalker, Samet and a bunch of other guys. They could be seen racing over the campus and out of the main gate. Nezu, tell the pro heroes they should make way for us so we can easily reach Haley. Izuku demanded over the intercom. Buster. You and your crew are going to be a couple of clicks behind us as a fallback zone. Looking around himself, Reaper and Clanker were beside him. Reaper, Clanker and Sidewalker are with me. The rest of you go in a group of 4 and spread out, the more we are the more surprise attacks we can deliver to them. The masked street racer ordered while evading multiple cars, the 2 Supras and the R32 closely following him. The 4 of them were driving bumper on bumper with minimal room for error. Driving with their hazard lights on and navigating through traffic with the help of the pro heroes, they had a fast pace. Spotting Haley's car in the far distance, the green-haired teen floored the gas pedal and rushed to her aid. But there was one thing he didn't account for in his calculation and predictions, that was, being a pro hero landing right in front of him, trying to stop him. Widening his eyes, it was Endeavor who tried to stop a street racer. Not thinking twice, it was now or nothing. He continued to floor his gas pedal, not showing any sign that he is going to stop. Outstretching his left arm, he slowly activated his quirk. Motherfucker, if I have to use my quirk, so be it. Last second, he recognized a car in the distance. Grabbing his steering wheel again and reaching for his hydraulic e-brake, he yanked on that bitch with all his might. His car turned right and tried to match the angle the truck that was heading to them. It was rescue, drove right into the unsuspecting hero from behind and sent him flying into a convenience store wall. Almost spinning out due to the angle he was in, Izuku corrected himself and did a 360. Reaper, Clanker and Sidewalker evaded rescue and rushed after him as fast they could. Shadow, not paying attention to his surroundings, only focused on getting to Haley. Help me. Someone. They're trying to push me off the streets. The young girl whined over the intercom. I'm almost there. Hang on a bit longer. Izuku responded to her. He was almost with her. He spotted a black car about to crash into her. He pressed his nose button and rushed over to the girl. He knew it was dangerous using nose in a crowded area, like in the middle of Mustafa City. Crashing into the black car that tried pushing her into the pedestrian crash barrier. Haley instantly stepped on her brake pedal and spun around. Exiting her car and looking what just happened, she was taken back by the sight that was in front of her. She recognized the car, it was Shadow's. Hearing multiple cars sliding to a halt, she also recognized them. Falling to the ground and sighing out, she was relieved that someone heard her plead. Piece of shit. Izuku shouted as he got out of his car. His head was bleeding. Because of the abrupt impact, even though he had a racing harness on, he slammed his head against his steering wheel once again. Looking at the damage he caused, he sighed out to himself, thinking that this is going to be a pain in the ass to fix. Looking over to Haley, he smiled to himself, seeing her save. Walking over to them, he whipped the blood all over his long-sleeved shirt. Shadow. The girl ran up and hugged him returning the gesture. More and more cars stopped at the scene where they were at. Over half of their crew assembled. Some were looking over Shadow's car, while others were interacting with the pro heroes or with each other. Shadow observed his surroundings and made sure that no one was acting too out of line. A few cops went up to the street racer and wanted to ask him a couple of questions. He did comply at first, but was rudely interrupted. "You." The kid with the mask and green hair. A deep voice shouted his way. Looking in the direction, multiple heroes walked up to the teen. Endeavor, being the first, suddenly charged at him. Izuku looked over at Spiky, he returning the gesture with a slight nod. Spiky crouched down and slammed his hands into the floor. A burst of rocky and cemented spikes shot out of the ground and pinned the aggressive pro hero in place, deeming him immobile. Behind a hellfire quirked hero, a couple of branches shot out and went straight after Izuku. Him not being fazed by it, activated his own quirk. Stretching out his hand, he directed Endeavor's hellfire into the direction of the branches and burned them to a crisp. But it didn't stop there, since Izuku stopped being a hero, he also found out about the multiple corrupted heroes in Japan society and Kamui Woods being one of them. The green-haired teen aimed the fire into the direction of the pro hero, being out for blood. Silver and Candy noticed his change in expression and rushed to him, tackling him down. "Shadow, are you out of your goddamn mind?" Silver shouted at him. Laying on the floor, pinned down, he noticed that there were multiple news stations aiming their camera at them. Clicking his tongue, he pushed the two girls off of him with the help of his telekinesis. "I have my reasoning," he pointed out dry. No hint of emotions, no sign of any expression. He's lucky today, but next time. There will be no next time. The teen walked away and got into Reaper's car, signaling that they are leaving. "Motherfucker." He kicked against the damaged front of his car. Shouting and spurring profanity after profanity, he was quite loaded with rage. Leaning against the wall, he slid down it and let his head fall low. No one dared to utter a word or go up to him, they all knew better. They didn't want to put additional fuel to the fire. "Hey Silver." Jess called out the blue-haired girl. She in return just looked away, as soon they looked eyes. Jess knew that it was best to leave Izuku alone, but she was worried about her friend. Looking around, she could see that no one was willing to go near him. Sighing out, she walked out of the garage and into the direction of the first year's dorm buildings. Reaching the front doors, she texted Momo and entered the building. Looking up, all sights of the students fell on her. Smiling and giving them a little wave, she walked up to their teacher and seated herself next to him. "Hello." The purple-haired girl smiled at him. "What are you doing here, Jess?" The sleep-deprived teacher questioned her. "I'm waiting for Momo," she pointed out. The teacher nodded and went back to sleep. Continuing to play with her phone, she waited for the raven-haired girl. Momo, on the other hand, was rushing to get finished. Grabbing a pair of sneakers out of her wardrobe and a light jacket that added to her outfit of leggings and a crop top. Reaching the common area, she walked up to Jess. "So what's up?" the Ravenet questioned. "It's Shadow. He needs some cheering up," Jess pointed out. She received a nod from Momo, and the two went back to the garage. Reaching the garage, they heard quite the commotion. Walking inside, they spotted Shadow with an angle grinder cutting through the front of his car. "What the hell is he doing now?" the purple-haired girl questioned out loud. "Well, he suddenly shot up, drove on one of the car lifts, and started to go to work." Silver walked up to the two. "He's just cutting off his front of the car up to the wheel wells. After that he's going to weld a drift bar in its place and a custom front chassis." Clipper informed the three girls as he was dragging the MIG welder to Shadow. The three girls blinked a couple of times and started giggling amongst themselves. "Man, and I thought he'd go on a rampage." Jess giggled. "He does have some rather unique antics," Momo pointed out and walked over to him. "Go help your boyfriend," Silver chanted after her. "I will," the Ravenet answered and gave them a wink. Walking up to the green-haired teen, she tapped his shoulder. Stopping what he was doing and looking up, he grabbed her by the hand and pulled her down to his level. "Quite bold of you, don't you think, Izuku?" She smirked at him. "Well, I can be even bolder if you want," he pointed out, kissing her cheek and standing up. He walked over to the fridge and got a monster. Opening the energy drink and taking a sip, he peeked his ears up to listen to the loud shriek the girl let out. Walking back to his car, he followed Momo with his eyes as she ran out of the garage. Her hands were covering her red flushed face. He chuckled to himself and went back to work. He was almost finished separating the bash bar from the chassis. Back with Momo, she was seen storming into the classroom with a red face. She just seated herself and stayed quiet. All her classmates were looking at her with a confusion. Ignoring them, she tried calming herself. Jiru walked up to her and smiled at her friend. Is everything okay, yeah Momo? The punk girl questioned her best friend. I'm fine. She stuttered a bit, giving her purple-haired friend a small smile. What did he do? Jiru trailed off. Momo stayed quiet and didn't answer her question. What did he do? She questioned the rich girl again, venom leaking behind every word she uttered. He did nothing. The raven-haired girl replied. He was just teasing me. Ooh. Yeah, Momo's boyfriend must be a bold guy then. Ashido smirked. Shadow is not my boyfriend. Not yet. Came from across the room. The three girls looked in the direction from where the voice came from and saw Bakugo giving them a sly smirk. Kitsuki, shut up. The rich girl yelled at him. Don't be like that Momo, or should I say Mokai. The ash blonde boy teased. Stop it, Kachin. The creation user shouted, embarrassed. Although the two of them wanted to continue their bickering, Aizawa entered the classroom and broke them up. Okay class, listen up. The sleep-deprived teacher demanded. We will be having a joint training session with Class B, so don't disappoint me. He started to explain how this joint training session would be like. But before we start, we will be having an additional student, or rather 2 additional students, to join us today. Aizawa-sensei added. The class wondered who would join them and started to talk amongst themselves to find out who those 2 students were. After a few minutes, there was a loud knock and the door opened. The class instantly recognized the 2 students standing there, one being Shinso, while the other one was Kendo. Both of them giving them a friendly wave. Kendo and Shinso are transferring into 1A. Aizawa announced. He went back to explaining what their joint training session with Class 1B would contain and what strong points are vital in their fight. Back in the garage, Izuku was continuing his work in his Mitsubishi Lancer Evo X. He was still quite pissed at himself, but on the other hand he is also relieved that his engine wasn't damaged through the crash. The only thing he has to replace was his twin intercooler system that was mounted there. Man, you're one lucky fucker, aren't you? Andy stood behind him. In what way am I lucky? The mop of green hair peeked out of his welder's helmet. Well, if you wouldn't have those reinforcements on your chassis, there would be far more significant damage. That may be true, but still, rebuilding the whole front of the car is a pain in the ass. Shadow pointed out. As the two of them continued arguing like a married couple, the rest of their crew stood there and chuckled at their antics. Smoke covering the area, burned rubber in the air and police sirens in the distance. Multiple loud screeches could be heard, as well as multiple engines revving up with every downshift. Multiple cars ran through the city night sky and navigated Themsel through traffic. Running over red lights, making pedestrians jump off of the crossroad and drifting around every turn they take. The cars drove behind each other, bumper on bumper, depending on the driver in front of them not to screw up. The feds were chasing after them, they had air support, and even the news podcast was on their asses. They just arrived at the highway and hoped for the best, that their cars and skills would bring them advantage over the cops. This is Entity 1, over. Came over the intercom. It was the leading driver of the crew, driving a blacked-out BMW M3 with purple underglow. This is Entity 2/3 4/5 6, over, the other drivers responded. They too had blacked-out BMWs, with their dedicated underglow colors. We have to get to 7 as fast as possible. Entity 1 stated. How the fuck should we get in contact with 7? Entity 4 answered. He's in Japan. Entity 6 pointed out. How the hell do we even get to Japan? The fucking league has control all over the US, even if they didn't, how the fuck do we even get our cars overseas? Motherfucker. Entity 3 was interrupted mid-sentence and evaded a sudden collision with the highway patrol. He swerved into the green strip fighting the car for control, aiming his car back onto the overtake lane. Son of a bitch. That motherfucker tried to kill me. 3 pointed out and stepped on it, trying to catch up to the others. Up above them were 2 helicopters watching over them, one belonging to the police, while the other belongs to Fox News. Back in Japan, 7 was under his RX-7, doing maintenance on his car. While he was working, Suicide ran into the garage. Hey, has anyone seen 7? She called out distressed. 7 peeked out from under his car and looked at the brunette. Hey Violet, is everything alright? What happened? He walked up to her. She grabbed him by his hand and pulled him to the TV, turning it on and switching to channel Fox News. Breaking news, this just came in. The Texas Highway Patrol is in a hot pursuit. They are chasing the underground street racing group known as the Entities and advise all other traffic participants to move over to the far right lane to be kept at a safe distance. The chopper zoomed into the action down below. Realization hit 7, watching the cars driving in formation. He knew that formation, he knew it because it was engraved into the back of his mind. He was part of that formation. Fuck. Suicide looked at him with concern, but before she could ask him anything, 7 ran out of the workshop and up to his room. He was looking for his old phone and intercom system. Fuck. Where did I put the damn thing? Suicide reached his room, with Shadow and Silver behind her. 7. What happened? Shadow questioned his friend. On the other hand, instead of responding, 7 found his old phone and intercom system and ran back to the TV. Those 6 BMWs have been in the spotlight for a while now and caught not only the attention of the Texas Highway Patrol, but also the attention of the neighboring states. They are known for driving behind one another, bumper on bumper and swerving through traffic without missing a beat. The reporter continued. As you can see, the Highway Patrol has quite the trouble catching up to those. It seems like they are 6 black BMWs and… Oh my god, an unsuspected Corvette just almost collided with one of the BMWs, sending the driver off the road and onto the green strip. This car chase is getting more and more intense by the minute. The report stated. 7 just watched in horror. Are they trying to kill them? The RX-7 driver questioned. Moving to the living room table, he set down the intercom system and turned it on, hoping it would still work after a few years of hiatus. Turning a dial to the last known wave sequence he remembered and hoping for the best. This is Entity 7, guys, do you copy? Back in the US the entities were swerving through traffic while the sun was setting and still trying to run from the cops. This is 4, I'm on half a tank. Guys. He informed the others. How long are they going to chase us? 2 panicked. We have to. 1 was interrupted. This is Entity 7, guys, do you copy? 7. All 6 other entities were taken back by the sudden presence of 7. On the other hand, 7's friends that were standing behind him were questioning what was going on and who the guys he is talking to. Guys, where are you headed to? We are trying to reach the nearest airport. The league has expanded exponentially since you left the US. Entity 1 explained. Get your sorry asses to Colorado. I have a friend there that can help you guys. Just tell him that it's a code 7186 and he will understand. I'll give you the details on the go. 7 explained to them. That's great and all, but how the fuck do we shake the cops? 4 questioned into the mists. I'll try and contact an old friend of mine, he still owes me a favor. 7 responded. Hoping that his old friend would help him in doing so. Because that friend, he as well, is known as one of the most wanted ghosts in Texas. That friend created a whole community for car enthusiasts. That person running from the cops in his blacked out Corvette at the dawn of dusk and turning into a ghost every time the highway patrol tried to pull him over. 7 texted that friend multiple times, hoping his phone number remained the same after all those years. The ones around him didn't know what was going on, they only know what was shown on TV. And with so little news, they questioned themselves more and more what happened in his past life. Yo, 7. It's me. Me and my quite racing team are on our way to the guys. A voice suddenly interrupted. 7 was caught off guard by the sudden introduction of his friend. Slow is quite known in the car community as Rill.Slo, and also one of the first people to introduce the ghost mode. He's better known for his blacked out Corvette or the custom license plate he introduced to the car community. Slow was driving down the highway, trying to catch up with the entities. His crew was right behind him, all in ghost mode to be undetected. To add to that, luck was on their side, since the police helicopter was lighting up the area quite nicely, they didn't need to worry about driving into oncoming traffic. Alright guys, we're gonna do a hit and run. Let the cops off of their bumpers and then meet up at the underground. Slow ordered his crew to initiate the plan. They all exited ghost mode and caught the feds off guard. They flew past them and started brake checking them to give the entities enough time to flee the scene. Whoa. What a surprise, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like some anonymous team just joined the party. The reporter was shocked out of his mind by the sudden appearance of the multiple cars appearing out of nowhere. He could recognize them by their logo plastered on the roof of their cars, they had to be a team. 7 was relived by the sudden appearance by his friend. 3 1998 Honda NSX Not 2 Type Rs pulled up to the scene and started to block the 3-lane highway. Each car started shooting flames to stall the feds. The entities took the chance they got and made a run for it. I hope this makes us even, 7. Make sure to take care of my sister or I'm coming for your head. Cutting off the communication, 7 sighed out. He was glad that Slow made it on time, smiling to himself. Okay, listen up guys. Head to Colorado, there should be an abandoned airport. A friend of mine bought that land and still keeps it running in private without the government knowing. Tell him Simon sent his best regards. 7 explained and gave them the coordinates to the abandoned airport. Cutting off communications with his friends, he sat down and let out a sigh of relief. The hand was placed onto his shoulder. 7, what's wrong? The masked racer questioned him. That we're my friends. He responded. We are quite known in the US for always running from the feds. We call ourselves the entities. Before I came to Japan and joined your crew, I was part of theirs. That's also where I got the name 7 from. Looking at the Valeside RX-7 driver, Izuku gave his friend a reassuring smile. Don't worry about a thing. We'll get them set up here. Might as well expend as much as we can. Thank you, Izuku. 7 smiled, looking at his phone, dreading the awaiting phone call he has to do. Walking to his car, his mind was occupied with multiple thoughts running through it. He walked up to his garage door and opened it. While doing so, he heard someone calling out for him. Sam. A feminine voice called out. Turning around, he was met by a blonde-haired woman. She was slightly taller than him and had a good figure for a woman her age. Yeah? What's up? He responded. Tyler informed us that the entities are coming over and need a lift to Japan. 7 informed me and stated it's a 7186. The blonde explained. 7. I haven't heard from him in ages, and now he wants me to fly some underground street racers to Japan. The girl nodded in response. Well, tell him I can't. Sam responded. Huh? Sam, these people need our help. Alex. He turned to her, annoyance and rage written all over his face. I can't, okay. Even if I wanted to, I can't. The League is controlling the airspace in the US. It would be a suicide mission to bring them over the border. Please, Sam. They need our help. She pleaded. I'm sure the house would help us if Tyler speaks with them. As she spoke his name, said person walked up to them. Sam, get the plane started. The house is gonna help us and make sure to get these boys over to Japan. Tyler pointed out. You guys got to be kidding me. Just do it, Sam. If things go south, I'll be the fall guy. Tyler stated. As the three of them were disguising their next move, a couple of cars pulled up to them. Turning their direction, they saw multiple supercars. A woman got out of her McLaren P1 and walked up to them. There was a heavy aura in the air. Navarro. Tyler squinted his eyes. He was cautious around her. Knowing her, she would backstab them again. Tyler, Ty, Morgan. He responded. That's it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But take care.